wanna go harder than I ever went. Bold and riding, dumber than the precedent, faster than the Rari. Yeah, I'm bold and riding, falling like I never spent. Bold and riding, money I'm a Cheeto, blow up like C4. Bold and riding, we wanna get it crunk in the club, rolling on dubs, at the parking lot with a couple hundred thugs. Wanna get grimy, boy I know they like me. Everybody round here know we getting hyphy. Know we getting hyphy. Know we getting hyphy. Know we getting hyphy. I gotta chill for a second now, cause the vibe's so smooth when I break it down. I'm back on the record now, like I never left. Yeah, I'm back for a second round. 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 Back for a second. Bold and ride. Bold and ride. Bold and ride. Bold and ride.
Welcome, everyone. It's time for the 2023 Kartrider Drift League Team Finals. My name is Wolf. I'm joined by State again today. We've got a really sick matchup coming at you guys. The third time since Kartrider Drift that KWANGDONG FREECS will take on Liiv SANDBOX. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling ecstatic. Every single finals that we have had this year has been the KWANGDONG FREECS versus Liiv SANDBOX. KWANGDONG FREECS, they've been able to take it every single time. But, you know, the first 2 times, Wolf, it was preseason 1, it was preseason 2, and that was kind of like the spring training for the KDL.
Yeah.
Yes, you won, but you're not actually a champion. Now here today, we're finally going to crown the first championship in KDL history.
Those 2 preseasons meant a lot to these teams, and there was prize pools, or there were prize pools associated with them. But as State just mentioned, this is going to be the first one that goes on the record. You will be the first KDL champion. Let's talk about our overview here for our team match finals, because it's a pretty unique format. We have 2 phases, which essentially act as our regular season matches. So speed 4v4s, a best of 5, an item best of 5. If you tie 1-1, you go to an ace match just like regular season. But we play 2 of those, and then if those both go to one team, for example, like they did in preseason 2, KWANGDONG wins phase 1, Liiv SANDBOX wins phase 2, we go to an all-kill format, King of the Hill, for phase 3.
Yeah, 4 team representatives, 4 players from each team, 1v1. Winner stays on until one team is fully eliminated. And I'm really hoping today that we get to a phase 3, because all-kill format, even going back to the glory days of esports like a decade ago, and a variety of other games, has always been such a thrill, something unique that you only really get a taste of in the grand finals of a KDL. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be a banger of a match. These 2 teams are incredibly close in skill. KWANGDONG FREECS, they have had the number of Liiv SANDBOX over, frankly, the entire year. But I would be surprised if LSB didn't take at least 1 phase and bring us to that all-kill format.
I mean, I hope that does happen, because I'd like to see a close match. The last time they did go to that phase 3 in preseason 2, the King of the Hill went down to the final track, so It was extremely close. We've mentioned this a lot throughout the season, but if you're just tuning in for the finals, there is a 100 million won prize for the champions alone.
Yeah.
And then the runner-up, the difference in prize pool is quite massive, from 100 to 40. Still a lot of money to take, but you want that 100 million.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this at a glance, 100 million Korean won, that's about 100,000 US dollars. You might think that's the total prize pool. No, that is just for first place. So a lot of money up for grabs, and additionally, the MVP will be selected from the match today. This is how it's going to be decided. Korean and English casters, there are 5 of us. Of course, only 2 here on the English squad. We're going to put our votes in after this show is done, as well as the Korean pre-show talent, the production, the observer, the media all coming in, and the MVP for today will get a nice 500,000 Korean won prize.
It's also, of course, the legacy that they will carry for being the inaugural season MVP.
Yeah.
The people will remember that forever. So really huge award to get. That's why we have a vote for it. It won't just be selected based on who wins the last track or anything like that. It is going to be a vote. So very common in Korean esports to make sure that it's kind of a democratic process, essentially, to decide who is the best amongst all the talent, and media even gets involved because they're very knowledgeable about these types of things as well. Here's the predictions. Unsurprisingly, KWANGDONG FREECS pulling up 73% of the vote here, and since they've done it twice already, and they've done it 7 times already in total this year, it's no surprise that fans think they'll do it again.
Yeah, 73 is a little bit on the high end, even given the history between these 2 teams. You know, for me personally, this year, I would maybe put it something more like 65 or 70, but almost 3/4, that's pretty crazy. But as you said, 8 times they've met, 8 times the Freaks have been victorious, whether it be in the regular season, whether it be in the postseason. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the only actual set won by Liiv SANDBOX was, I believe, phase 2, if I'm not mistaken. They won just one of those phases, so they got their work cut out for them, man.
All right, so if you're new to Kartrider Drift League, in playoffs, we actually have a live pick and ban for our tracks here. So KWANGDONG FREECS starting things out with the first track selection. They'll also get first ban. They have priority coming to this. They won the top of the bracket, so they have the advantage going into this. We'll see where we are headed for these tracks. This is for speed mode. Village Boom Hill Tunnel is the first selection here before bans.
Yeah, Boom Hill Tunnel picked out for track number 1, and then another ban on a village track there coming through from the Freaks. Now, the next selection coming in from Liiv SANDBOX is actually going to be Mind Winding Slopes in total that gets banned. So a little bit of a surprise there from LSB. I think about mind-winding slopes, and I think of some insane plays that Neil's been making, taking really greedy builds
he
on
also,
those down slopes, but
he holds the track record for mind-winding slopes right now as well, so a bit surprised to see that one banned. No shock here to see Terracotta Twister coming through, a track that is well known by everyone here in the KDL. And then a ban on Factory Facility 5 coming through here for Kwangdong FREECS is no shocker. This is a track that's less seen and one that you don't want to actually, if you go deep into this best of 5, deal with, because it's just one that could throw a curveball. You don't want to be going, oh man, I might lose speed over this track I'm just not as good at.
Yeah, I mean, the shortcut on Factory Facility 5 is one of the trickier ones. If your hitbox just doesn't quite go exactly the way you want it to be, it can be pretty much track ending for you. And so I understand for the FREECS perspective coming in here is likely the favorite team to just frankly win in speed, both in Phase 1 and Phase 2. It's a nice pick. And
will Kwangdong be willing to play Handy Harbor here is the question. It's still available. Nope, it's going to be Glacier Extreme Stadium.
Okay.
The two tracks I love the most, okay? I knew it was going to be one of the two.
Yeah.
Handy Harbor, one that we saw Mireille and Sejong play a lot. They were the only team really doing this, but since it wasn't banned, I thought maybe Kwangdong was going to throw us a curveball, but they are going to take us to Glacier Extreme Stadium. So Glacier Extreme Stadium and Terracotta Twister, the two tracks that have seen the most play across the KDL preseasons, and then, of course, here in our inaugural season, because they were out when the game first released. They've always been part of our track pool, and they're tracks that, frankly, a lot of players have so much experience on they like to play. So those are the two that I look at that could be defining in this first series.
Yeah, even over the course of this entire year of KDL, when we think of tracks like Terracotta Twister, we think of tracks that are very technical, that the veteran teams in the regular season want to pick against the rookie teams because they can almost always pick up the win. They're very difficult tracks to manage perfectly. And I was actually hoping to do a little bit more analysis there in the map drafting stage, but they went so quickly through every single pick in band. These teams absolutely know exactly what their game plan is going to be for today in speed. And that's kind of surprising to me. I think that's probably the fastest map draft I've seen in any speed mode in any postseason so far in KDL.
I don't think we've ever seen faster, and they clearly knew what they wanted to play. We're going to Terracotta, right? That's the one that you know is going to come out. The mind-winding slopes there as well. Not surprising to see that come out. And, you know, there's a lot to discuss, but we're going to have to go through our second draft here. Now, this is for item mode. And this is where sometimes we could do a little bit more analysis, because there are two types, two styles of item mode play. One is what we call tempo-based, where you're trying to use items in non-stop attack to maintain a tempo advantage. The other is to try to do a timing-based finish. Mind Motherload, a little bit more on the tempo-based side. You can see a 6-1 record here for Liiv Sandbox. They have track priority here for item, so it's no shock they picked this one first.
Yeah, Mind Motherload, a very fun track here in item mode, and Liiv Sandbox seem to be quite confident there. Now, let's also keep in mind that Kwangdong FREECS, because they had that advantage in speed mode, Liiv Sandbox here does have priority in the item mode draft. Is some instant picks almost coming out from Kwangdong FREECS, and not a surprising ban, taking out Mind Magma Cavern. That's a very tricky one, especially against a team as skilled in item mode as Liiv Sandbox is. And then the pick coming in there for round 2 is actually going to be Forest Misty Falls.
Graveyard Dark Castle as well coming through here for Liiv Sandbox. A rarer one, but one they've picked up a lot. They're 5-1 on it. It's also a bad record for Kwangdong FREECS here at 1-3. I mean, it's hard to see a record that low for a team that has been so dominant, almost went undefeated in regular season. So a great pick here for Liiv Sandbox. Forest Mushroom Caves will be banned away as well. Not really getting a sense of exactly what Liiv Sandbox wants to do in terms of their play style today. More so, they've almost just game theoried which tracks they think Kwangdong are best at and what they think they're best at, and are just doing it almost based on the stats.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Polar Halfpipe was going to be the pick coming in here for the Kwangdong FREECS. That's one of those tracks that Liiv Sandbox really struggled in over the course of the regular season. Actually, no, it's going to be World Tour London Night, which is a track that does kind of play similar to Polar Halfpipe. It's one of those tracks that is not very much tempo-based. It's much more about going for that shortcut on the final lap and trying to set up kind of a wombo combo play, more akin to the item mode meta of KDL preseason 1, if you're one of those veterans that's been with us from the very beginning. So that will be track number 4. Final track selection going to Liiv Sandbox, and they're really taking their time on this one.
Yeah, it could still be Polar Halfpipe here to come through. Oh, Cogwheel Crush, though. That's one that we saw a lot in preseason 1. And you could see 2-0 on it, only 2 times played this season. KWANGDONG FREECS have no recorded tracks of this one because it's just so rare right now. This one is, I would say, more towards the tempo side of things, but there's a lot of environmental hazards on the track as well. So you really have to keep your wits about you on that one. We didn't end up going to Gondola either here. Another one that can be quite tricky. We saw it a lot towards the end of this season where, you know, you could fall off during the shortcut, during the gondola portion, if there's a really nice timing that comes through. So Cogwheel Crush, bit of a curveball here, but see if Liiv SANDBOX can pull it off.
I think coming in here as the underdogs, you kind of want to go for some curveballs in your draft, especially in item mode against a team like KWANGDONG FREECS. And you know, on paper, KWANGDONG FREECS absolutely favored in speed, but I would say that Liiv SANDBOX, although it's not as big of an edge, they do still have an edge when it comes to item mode. They've been really solid over the course of the preseasons. Jimin, who is now their hybrid player, used to be their item ace.
So they have 2 item aces essentially. They have one Dalda. They have Dalda and one X item ace. So they have 2 specialists, whereas KWANGDONG FREECS have no item ace because they do not have someone who's dedicated to this position. So I really do think that we're in a position now where the item mode has to be how Liiv SANDBOX finds the angle.
Absolutely, that's what I'm planning for too. I think that you're going to be really favored coming through.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the history of these 2 teams and some of the storylines coming into this. As we've mentioned several times, KWANGDONG FREECS won Preseason 1, won Preseason 2, both against Liiv SANDBOX, and they played against each other early on in this tournament as well. This is Team Match 1, Speed Round 1. A replay of that was pretty competitive, very close. Great start to the season, to be honest. But KWANGDONG FREECS, once again, did get the better of Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, KWANGDONG FREECS just in general have been virtually undefeated when it comes to speed mode here in the KDL. And you know, in KDL Preseason 1, they were already Titans, they were already the best speed mode team, but it felt like every single season after that, from KDL Preseason 1 to Preseason 2 to now the first official regular season, they've been a force to beat. But Liiv SANDBOX, occasionally the stars align like they do here on Desert Construction Chaos. And this is one of those tracks where really sweeping reigns supreme. We've seen it from Spear on KWANGDONG FREECS in a variety of matches over the course of the entire year. We've seen it from Hyunsu as well for Team Liiv SANDBOX. And so I still give the edge to the Freaks coming through. But Liiv SANDBOX, they are a little bit of a wild card here as we look at the postseason results. Now, KWANGDONG FREECS just absolutely dominant. They did not have the perfect score over the course of this regular season, but 6-1 overall, +9, +11 for the differentials, even taking down Liiv SANDBOX 4-1 in speed, but much closer in item.
Yeah. And then Liiv SANDBOX, of course, having to fight their way through the lower bracket. They did end up taking out MSJ in a series that ended up being fairly close. You know, there were some people who really believed maybe MSJ were actually going to be the upset winners and they would actually be the first team to place against KWANGDONG FREECS in the finals. That wasn't Liiv SANDBOX to kind of break that mold. This also, of course, means that KWANGDONG FREECS have had some additional time to study Liiv SANDBOX, who had to play those extra series because they were locked down so early. So there's so much more data about Liiv SANDBOX right now. KWANGDONG FREECS have been able to hide strategies, have been able to hide maybe some new lines they have, for example, on some of these tracks. So they've had a ton of extra time to gain a huge advantage, and that's what you get when you make it to the upper bracket finals. We don't give double bracket resets or anything like that here in our tournament, but it's the time, really, that you have as a massive edge.
Yeah, but there is something to be said about coming in, having just played and just won another match. KWANGDONG FREECS, it's been a little bit for them since they won the upper bracket finals. Liiv SANDBOX, although they did reveal some of their strats, you know, they are a bit more in the momentum of things coming off of a victory, so we'll see how that plays out as we take a look at the history here. From the preseason finals, KWANGDONG FREECS, both in preseason 1 and preseason 2, absolutely dominant against Liiv SANDBOX. Only phase 2 from preseason 2 going to Liiv SANDBOX.
And Liiv SANDBOX also just not having any results in terms of ace match wins against this team. World took out Neil, World took out Insu, who was really the ace for the team back then, who's since, of course, gone to the military and is taking a hiatus from professional play. He may return, we don't know, but Insu was a top-tier player. World defeated him, defeated Neil. World also defeated Hyunsu when they met in the preseason 2 finals. So Liiv SANDBOX has not been able to make it count in these finals with their ace matches with 3 different players. They played very few ace matches during the season, so they haven't been able to actually have a lot of time to shore that weakness up either necessarily. And that is a big concern of mine and why my prediction has been officially here 2-0 for KWANGDONG FREECS over Liiv SANDBOX, because I give the speed to Kwangdong, and I give the ace match to Kwangdong almost every time. Neil might be able to show up today. He made it close in the solo finals, in which he was also defeated against a Kwangdong's player in Cool just last week. But as much as we love Neil, as much as we trust him, he hasn't been able to prove it when it matters most in these big finals just yet.
Yeah, and as far as the regular season goes, he really hasn't been able to step up that much. As the stats we're looking at right now to break this down for you is the regular season leaderboard for team speed. So Looning on Rocks Esports was effectively the most skilled individual racer coming through, but Kwangdong FREECS with Sungbin in World in position 2 and position 3. And notably on this list, yes, we do have Jimin, we have Byung-Soo, formerly known as Speed. There is no Neil to be found. And it's been kind of a significant drop-off for him in team speed, which frankly surprises me because, as you said, Wolf, he's been looking really good in the individual speed matches. So it's not as though his lines are necessarily worse. It's not as though he has lost his edge, his skill. But just over the course of this entire regular season, Neil absolutely hasn't been able to step it up. I mean, Byung-Soo, he is the official speed ace there for Liiv SANDBOX, but whenever I think of LSB, I think of Neil and Byung-Soo as the lead racers.
You compare two players, too, that are critical for their teams are missing here. In Spear and Neil, what Spear does means he wouldn't be on this list because he's the sweeper. He's not going to be hitting those top 3 ranks most of the time. He's often going to be sacrificing his own individual rank. But that's not really the role of Neil. And I feel like what Kwangdong FREECS bring to the table as a 4-man unit is a really robust structure where roles are clearly defined. Now, that can also be a weakness at times as well when suddenly Spear's the one who's in first place. He had the best start, but he's not the greatest at holding on to that and being that runner in the front line. So that can be a weakness. But I think Liiv SANDBOX are much more free flow, which again can be good. But when you're going up against a top team like Kwangdong FREECS that have that really strong structure, it can backfire for sure. You can see some of the stats between these two. Look at the first place finishes, 28 first place for Kwangdong FREECS. That means only in 7 races of speed mode, they did not have the first place racer. That's insane.
Absolutely insane. And
it's crazy.
the high place once you finish is usually the 1-2 punch that you go for over the course of the regular season. Very even between Kwangdong FREECS and LSB in that regard, but the first place just being absolutely on lock for KDF is truly incredible. And this is one of my favorite graphics that we have overall in this pre-show. This is the best individual record in team speed on any track. So Glacier Extreme Stadium, World is your guy. Brazil Circuit, Boom Hill Tunnel, Handy Harbor, that goes to Cool, Spear, and Sungbin. They've been the best over the course of this entire official season. But it's still 4-4, Liiv SANDBOX, although they have only 3 players represented on this list. Neil, we were talking about Winding Slopes, man. Yeah. He's the MVP on that track.
He is. Now, we have Terracotta Twister and Glacier Extreme Stadium as part of the track list as well. And those are the ones, to me, that I think are really going to be defining in this first phase of speed because they are the tracks that have the most experience of all 8 racers that we're going to be seeing in speed. Neil and World both have the record on them right now. Glacier Extreme for World, of course, Terracotta Twister for Neil. So really interested to see how that's going to shake out, especially because both of those tracks have turns in the indoor portion in Terracotta Twister and then the hairpin turns on Extreme Stadium where you can showcase the highest level of skill in kart rider drift. And there's an imminent risk as well that if you mess it up, you could fall off the track and actually lose your team everything. So it's a really exciting 2 tracks we have.
Yeah, here looking at the points of the race for Team Item World with some really stellar water bombs coming in against Liiv SANDBOX on Forest Mushroom Caves. That was in the upper bracket finals there in round number 6, which of course KDF, they were eventually able to dispatch Liiv SANDBOX leading up here into the grand finals. And Byung-Soo, although he is the speed ace here on this LSB team, it's actually Neil that swaps out from speed mode to let Dalda come in there for Item. So Byung-Soo, he will be performing here in Item, and so far, he's been really solid for LSB.
Yeah, in terms of the attacks here, this is all just about what we often call team fighting, weirdly enough, in Kart Rider Drift, where you're looking to find accuracy of these items and actually disrupt the opponents that you're facing. Using the barrier, which is an item that's very difficult to actually aim, Byung-Soo was able to hit that onto Navi and make a really incredible play there and then take out Hero with a water bomb. But World's double back-to-back water bombs actually sealed the deal for Kwangdong FREECS to win that finals. It was an incredible moment. And then they ended up going straight to the grand finals. We had no ace match. Kwangdong FREECS took it. And it was a really critical moment where World showcased, you know, I'm more than just an incredible speed racer. I've actually really improved my item. And I think that was one weakness KWANGDONG had just in general, is they were so good at speed and very good at item. Now you could see that there's kind of a change happening in this roster where they're all becoming much more versatile.
Yeah, and they feel the confidence in that too. I remember from KDL preseason 1, they identified as having 1 ace and 3 runners, and I think it was KDL preseason 2 or this regular season where they changed their official quote-unquote positions when they registered their team, and they said, no. Now we have 1 ace and 3 hybrid players. We will beat you in speed and in item.
Yeah. Here are the stats, or rather the results from the preseason 2 finals ace match, or King of the Hill, where it went 4-3, and KWANGDONG FREECS were able to win that last one on Zigzag Timberland. It was Sungbin who took out Hyunsu, but this is kind of a precursor to how close this finals could be and how close it was just last time around, and also how this format works. So, see, Cool wins against Byungsu, so he stays up. Then Liiv SANDBOX have to call up a new player. Then Jimin won, so Cool went out, etc., etc. World wins 2 in a row, so he stays up. It's winner stays, and then the other team has to pull one of their 4 players in, and you basically have 4 lives.
Yeah, it's a tricky format. I think if it does go to a phase 3 and we go to this all-kill format, it's going to be very close. I would not be surprised to see another 4-3 or maybe a 4-2 between these 2 teams going possibly either way. But for me, my concern is just like yours. It's, can Liiv SANDBOX actually get there? Can they win one of these phases? If they do, I think it's going to have to be through an item mode. It's going to have to be through an ace match. But that's a tall order. LSB, over the course of this entire regular season, I don't believe they played a single ace match up until the postseason. So it's really been kind of a tough situation for a team that struggled in ace matches in preseason 1 and preseason 2, and then never really got a chance to get their feet wet again and try and break off the rust they had accumulated over the course of the entire year. Now taking a look at the key racers, it's going to be World for KDF, and Neil is the selections in. And the head-to-head records on Mine-Winding Slopes. 3 times in a row. Preseason 1 finals, preseason 2 finals. World has been able to take it to Neil.
And a lot of these were Neil choking. Notice the preseason 1 finals, the 1.7 seconds different there. That's because Neil made a massive mistake there despite being the leader and actually ended up losing. That's a massive disparity in terms of time.
Yeah, I think that might have been when he clipped one of those support beams in the intersection, if I remember correctly.
And those are the kind of mistakes that Neil will never show you almost ever in regular season, but in some of these critical matches and these ace matches, we have seen him make some of those errors. So if he does end up being the ace tonight, which I think is very likely in any potential ace scenario that we do have, he's going to have to make sure that his wits are about him. He raced very close against Cool, went down to the wire, the final 5th track there in the finals just a week ago. And so there's a lot on Neil's mind. He wants to get revenge on Cool. He wants to get revenge on KWANGDONG, not only for losing to a KWANGDONG player in the solo finals again, but also losing to KWANGDONG twice already in back-to-back preseasons. And he's really just trying to prove for himself that he can turn it around this time.
You know, one of the surprising things about this, too, is that Mine-Winding Slopes, that's the track that Neil holds the record on for speed this season, and yet 3 times he meets World on what should be his best track, or one of his best tracks at least, and 3 times he's defeated. So really, World has been the kryptonite for this LSB team in ace matches throughout basically the entire year. And I think if they're going to try to win one of these phases, it's going to have to be in an ace match against World. That's a tough order.
Yeah, and I think I'm on the same page as you in that I do feel that I don't think we're going to see Liiv SANDBOX win either phase of speed. But if they do, that really does change a lot of these dynamics, because then suddenly things get a little bit more interesting. Let's talk about what the teams have actually predicted here. So you can see Finale and Always predict a 2-0 here for KWANGDONG FREECS, which is my prediction as well. And then Desperado and Nutmite expecting KWANGDONG FREECS to win in that King of the Hill. But Rox and MSJ actually going for Liiv SANDBOX. Rox saying a 2-0 for Liiv SANDBOX, and MSJ saying they're going to do it in that King of the Hill.
The 2-0 really surprises me.
Same.
I mean, my entire thought process during this is like, they're going to have to win an item. If they win in speed, then maybe they can, you know, win a phase without going to an ace match. But they got to force that phase 3. And, man, Rox Esports, Did like Liiv Sandbox buy him dinner or something? That's a
Maybe-
lot of faith.
Maybe some scrims, maybe some extra practice they've done leading up into this finals that really makes them feel like they're the better team right now, but only time will tell. We're going to take a very short break, guys. Thank you so much for watching our pre-show. When we come back, the finals will begin.
I gotta cool down, 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 cool down. I gotta cool down, 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 cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. Pass me the fan, I gotta cool down. Hold on a minute, let me fix my crown. We the best here, yeah, there's no doubt. Wanna know how I do it? Let me break it down. Keep it moving to the top. Push it, never stop. Make it time, make it pop. Hustle till you drop. Keep it moving to the top. Push it, never stop. Make it time, make it pop. Hustle till you drop. I gotta cool down, cool down, cool down, cool down, cool down, cool down. I gotta cool down, 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 cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. I'm too hot for this, I gotta cool down. I'm
mouth, better add the respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is to throw. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone, throw it off in my brain and I'm bad to the bone.
We've witnessed the beginning of the new era of Kartrider League to Kartrider Drift League. We've had 2 pre-seasons, but now we are going to crown the first champions of the Kartrider Drift League, the first official champions to lift that trophy right before you on stage and cement themselves in the history of the new era of Kartrider.
Will it be the KWANGDONG FREECS or Liiv SANDBOX? These 2 teams have been titans from the beginning of the year all the way up until now. And the first team to enter this stage, KWANGDONG FREECS. And this feels like the team of destiny, Wolf. They won KDL preseason 1. They won KDL preseason 2. They have been the team to beat all year. And not one team has been able to step up and rise to the occasion.
No one has stopped this team. They did it twice in a row. They are the defending champions of solo as well, with Cool taking that title last week. Now they take to the stage here to try to defend their preseason legacy as the first Kartrider Drift team champions. The KWANGDONG FREECS extremely dominant, but there is a team that stands in their way, and it'll be the 3rd time Liiv SANDBOX will take this stage against the KWANGDONG FREECS. They were stopped in preseason 1. They were stopped in preseason 2. But in the first official finals, Neil leads the charge with a smile as he looks to get revenge for those last 2 defeats, his defeat just last week at the hands of Cool.
Liiv SANDBOX, a team that has faced the KWANGDONG FREECS time and time again in the regular season, in the postseason, from KDL preseason 1 to preseason 2 to this season right here, right now. And it's been a struggle from start to finish, but this is where it counts, Wolf.
This is where it counts. And we are about to get this kicked off. There is a ton of fans here in the audience to witness the birth of a new champion here in Kartrider Drift League. And as Sungke takes the stage here, he's letting everyone know the stakes here. It's a big, incredible match. And we're going to let him have his moment here to start the finals.
We're getting so close to that moment. Liiv SANDBOX versus KWANGDONG FREECS has been the story all year. Sungke getting ready, hyping up the crowd.
It's time to start it. And here we go. Let's start the KDL 2023 Team Finals.
일단 3번 연속으로 결승 진출하게 돼서 기분이 좋고, 근데 또 상대가 샌드박스라서 더 기분이 좋습니다.
뭐 무덤덤하고요. 상대가 공동이라 더 좋은 것 같아요.
라이벌 상대인 샌드박스를 2대0으로 좀 쉽게 이겨서 좀 쉽게 올라온 것 같아요.
이번 패배로 인해서 저희 팀 팀원들 승부욕이 많이 올라왔고 또 이를 갈았기 때문에 좋은 경험이었던 것 같아요.
2대0으로 다 이기고 있어서 샌드박스와 저희의 실력이 되게 차이가 점점 벌어지고 있다고 생각합니다.
뭔가 아직 뭔가 좀 어설픈 그런 느낌 많이 받았던 것 같아요. 일단 리빌딩 전과 후의 같은 점은 항상 저희한테 졌었다는 거고요. 다른 점은 더 쉬워졌다는 거. 원인은 여기 있지 않나?
병수 선수가 너무 못해가지고 그 차이가 큰 것 같습니다. 이제 리그장만 오면 벌벌 떠는 것 같더라고요.
아무리 그래도 월드 선수는 제가 이기지 않을까요?
준현이 형 말이 맞는 것 같아요. 제가 스피드전 잘하는 법을 가르쳐 드리겠습니다.
뭔데요?
뭐 이따가 제 플레이 보고 배우세요.
이번 시즌 저희가 전부 2대0으로 승리한 이유는 그냥 하나인 것 같아요. 저희가 잘해서 그런 것 같습니다.
개인적으로 경기장에서 어떻게 잘하는지 이미 알았어요. 그래서 결승전 때 기대해봐요.
일단 리브 샌드박스 같은 경우에는 밴픽을 할 때 초반에 좀 무난한 트랙을 위주로 픽을 하더라고요. 어려운 트랙을 밴하는 걸로 봐서는 그냥 어려운 트랙을 단순하게 못하기 때문에 오늘 하는 거지 않을까.
아니요, 우리 팀 어려운 트랙이 특별 잘해요. 왜 이재호 선수 이렇게 생각해? 저도 모르겠어요. 이상해요.
스피드전 자신 없어서 그런 거 아니에요?
쿨, 네스컬링 맞을 걸래?
정규 시즌 오고 나서 스피드 강팀 느낌이 좀 많이 나고 무엇보다 애결 카드가 좀 많아가지고 그 부분이 좀 강점인 팀인 것 같아요.
유리한 상황일 때 붙이는 거를 잘 하는 것 같아요.
근데 너무 착하게 말했는데 아까는 막 박소충이라고. 창현이는 옛날부터 센스가 좋았기 때문에 팀이 불리한 상황일 때 슈퍼플레이로 팀을 승리로 이끄는.
예전에는 네 뒷공문이 따라오던 애가 많이 컸구나 그냥 생각하고 있어요.
3, 4년 전 일이기 때문에 지금은 창현이가 제 앞범퍼 모습을 모를 거예요.
근데 솔직히 유리한 상황일 때 붙이는 거는 그냥 현수 말고 누구나 다 잘하는 거라 이렇게 잘하는 건가?
창현이처럼 슈퍼플레이를 보여주는 거는 성공하면 대박이고 실패하면 뭐 그냥 8등 하는 거고 유리한 상황이 잘 안 돼봐서 모르는 것 같은데 그렇게 막는 것도 쉬운 게 아니거든요.
근데 우승하려면은 저처럼 해야죠.
근데 창현이가 저를 뚫을 수 있을까요? 결승 때 성과 방패의 싸움 기대해주세요.
공동 프리스 아이템전 못해요. 진짜 못해요. 그리고 솔직히 준현이 형이랑은 아이템전 얘기할 게 없는 것 같아요.
저한테 뭐 아이템 못한다 뭐니 하는데 저한테 물 다 잡히셔가지고 이겼잖아요. 결승 때도 그런 모습 보여드려가지고 아이템도 털어주겠습니다.
준현이 형은 실드나 잘 눌렸으면 좋겠어요.
그건 할 말 없습니다.
공동 프리스 풀리그에서 에이스 결정전 갔던 거 다 아이템전 져서 그런 거잖아요.
그래서 8강 풀리그 1등 하셨나?
저희 2등 했습니다, 2등.
잘하시네요.
리브 샌드박스는 러너를 한번 달리게 하고 상대와 좀 격차를 벌이게 하는 전략을 쓰더라고요. 근데 저희랑 할 때는 격차 그렇게 못 벌리시던데 결승에서도 그렇게 하실 거예요?
근데 저희 전략이 그거 하나뿐이라고 생각하시진 않죠? 진짜로 그렇게 생각하시는 거면 좀 바보 같은 생각이라고 저는 생각드네요.
아이템전도 현수가 제일 잘하는 것 같아요.
저도 창현이라고 생각해요. 좀 기분이 좋아졌는데 옛날에 아이템을 배우기도 했고 워낙 옛날부터 아이템을 잘하고 센스가 좋은 선수다라고 많이 알려져 있어서
저한테 배운 애가 팀에서 제일 잘하면 말 잘한 거 아닌가요?
그냥 제가 결승전 때 아이템 에이스가 왜 필요한지 증명하도록 하겠습니다.
일단 스피드 잡은 팀이 좀 더 유리할 것 같지만 그래도 결승이라 애결 갈 것 같은 느낌이 있어요. 근데 지금 상현이가 애결 안 나오더라고요. 왜 안 나오는지 모르겠는데
다 제가 나간다 안 해도 전부 다 너무 나가고 싶어 하길래 안 나갔어.
결승 애결에도 아이경이 나왔으면 좋겠습니다.
현수 이죠. 이러면 현수 이번에는 극복을 해냈습니다.
아이티 형이요? 그 랩 좀 빼면 좋겠는데. 사빈공이랑 사실 익스트림 아니면 다 좋아요.
제가 또 릴이랑 많이 붙어봤는데 일단 제가 데이터베이스상 더 앞서고 있는 것 같거든요. 그래서 제가 이길 것 같아요.
저는 8강에서 3번 애결 다 이겼어요. 오히려 재혁 선수는 애결 좀 아쉬워요. 네, 그래서 저는 이길 수 있을 것 같아요.
제가 저번 시즌에는 개인전 우승자였던 굴 선수를 너무 쉽게 이겨가지고 이번에는 월드 선수를 이겨보고 싶네요. 첫 주제로 나오세요.
빡세요. 지민 선수랑 프리시즌 2 때 한번 해본 적이 있는데 되게 잘해가지고 당황도 했었고, 그래서 이번에 승자원전 가면은 지민 선수가 제일 견제가 되는 것 같습니다.
쿨 선수는 워낙에 주행을 잘하는 선수니까 뭐 이해하는데 성민 선수는 제가 주행으로 이길 것 같은데요?
저는 병수 선수 자체를 잘 몰라요. 노란색 머리일 때는 좀 눈에 띄었었는데 검은색 머리 한 거 보니까 누군지 처음에 몰랐어요.
근데 저도 나올 가능성이 없지 않아 있거든요.
승자전에서 달다가 나온다? 완전 공생이죠.
광동 프릭스의 유창현 씨도 저랑 같이 32강 탈락인 걸로 아는데 그럼 똑같은 거 아닌가요?
이건 인정하는 우승이었어요.
아니. 그냥
제가 올해 광동 프릭스에 들어왔을 때 감독님이랑 선수들한테 3번 다 우승하겠다고 말씀을 드렸었는데 그럼 이번 결승전에서 끝맺음 짓겠습니다.
샌드박스가 미안해. 우려가 이번 연도는 가져갈게.
그래, 이벤트 리그 너네 가져가고 정규 시즌 우리가 가져갈게.
박현수만 잡겠습니다.
창 그냥 부셔버리겠습니다.
이벤트 리그 2번 우승하게 해줬으니까 진짜 별은 저희가 달려갈게요.
저희만큼 동기부여가 잘 된 팀이 없다고 생각하는데 이번 우승은 저희가 가져가겠습니다.
일단 제가 또 개인전 로열 로더를 달성했기 때문에 이번에 팀전까지 양대 우승을 노려볼 수 있게 됐습니다. 많은 응원 부탁드릴게요.
내 손으로 우승 트로피 잡을게요. 그래서 팬분들 많이 기대해 주세요. 리브 샌드박스 파이팅!
We've now set the stage for our 2023 KDL Team League Finals. Had some trash talk between Liiv, SANDBOX, and KWANGDONG FREECS. Some really memorable ones in there as well.
진짜 못해요. They cannot play item mode. KDF cannot play item mode. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I like that video.
I appreciate how bold and unflinching Neil was with his Korean as well.
Yeah, he was really good, actually. I'm surprised. I heard that he was in I can't remember what level he got to in like the Korean studying program, but he's picking it up quick.
Yeah, there was definitely some scripted moments in there that he nailed for sure. You know, it's a traditional Korean trash talk video. Love that we're seeing it. We got it subtitled for you guys, so I hope you all enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, the stage is set, and a lot of the things the players talked about in that trash talk video were things that we were talking about in the pre-show, like, for example, Liiv SANDBOX believing that KWANGDONG is terrible at item mode, as I was saying, is maybe one of the weak points that they can attack to bring us to ace matches, which is what you and I both believe is going to happen tonight if we're going to see this go the distance.
Yeah, I think if Liiv SANDBOX is able to take one of these speeds, whether it be in Phase 1 or in Phase 2, they have a really good shot of forcing that King of the Hill in. While historically, the 1v1 ace matches have absolutely gone KDF's way over the course of this entire year. When it comes to that King of the Hill format, it has been unbelievably close. But now at last, it is time to get going. Kwangdong Freaks take to the stage. Sungbin and World absolutely leading the charge here in terms of running second and third overall over the entire season in team speed. But you cannot forget Cool and Spears sweeping.
Exactly, and it's hard to actually get to approach 3 in terms of your average speed rank. It means you're going in the top half every race, essentially. You've worked hard throughout the year-long league. We will do our best until the end and learn from you. Very polite here, a little bit unusual from Kwangdong Freaks.
It's funny to see that kind of polite message after an 8-minute trash talk video. But this is going to be a thrill, man.
It is going to be a thrill.
I cannot wait to get started. And for Liiv SANDBOX here coming into team speed mode, I feel like there isn't that much pressure on this specifically. Of course, you're going to be giving it your absolute all to win here in speed, because with their prowess in item mode, at least relative to the Kwangdong Freaks, I think they have a really good chance of taking a phase if they can win in speed. But frankly, they're a little bit outmatched here. And speaking as someone that's kind of been in the booth as a pro player before, when you are the underdog going up against a big opponent, and we already saw the fan votes, it was what, 73% in favor of KDF? That takes a little bit of the weight off your shoulders here for Liiv SANDBOX, right? And I mean, they're saying it themselves. You know, we've fallen 7 times. We've stood up 8. And hey, maybe the 8th time is the charm.
So Liiv SANDBOX, to contextualize this for fans watching the finals, maybe you don't know about Kart Rider Drift League. Liiv SANDBOX was the dominant force in Kart Rider League. Before Kart Rider Drift, they won every single tournament basically since they joined the league as SANDBOX. They've lost to Kwangdong Freaks in Kart Rider Drift so far. Every time they faced, they are 0-7. But on the 8th time of asking to be the first champions, that is the goal here for Liiv SANDBOX. We did our track selection earlier. We're headed to Boom Hill Tunnel first. Terracotta Twister will follow, then Desert Construction Chaos, WKC Brazil Circuit, and then finally, if necessary, Glacier Extreme Stadium will be the deciding track.
Yeah, and it's a little surprising from the Trash Talk video. Some of the players on Kwangdong Freaks were saying Liiv SANDBOX not really fans of the tougher speed mode tracks, but coming through with the picks there on Terracotta Twister, I mean, that's one of the more challenging ones that we get. That's one of those tracks that you get in the inner tomb section and your fate can change in the blink of an eye.
It certainly can. It is going to be momentum-based here, this best of 7. The grand finals now finally are going to begin. Kwangdong Freaks to defend their preseason titles against Liiv SANDBOX, challenging for their first. It all starts on Village Boom Hill Tunnel.
The grand finals for 2023 KDL begins now here. Kwangdong Freaks versus Liiv SANDBOX, and Neil and Jimin off to a fantastic start, Wolf.
Getting this kind of start is massive, but Spears already trying to break through here. Midfield very much in control here by Kwangdong Freaks, but Spear is actually going to have to be the one who breaks through. We talked about some of the rigidness of Kwangdong Freaks. It's usually not Spear who's the one who challenges top 3. He denies it, but with the fantastic start that Neil and Jimin had here, it's a bit of a tough one for Kwangdong Freaks in this one-lap track.
Yeah, Spear playing a little bit of a 1v3 right now, and his game plan is going to be trying to take one of these tight corners, get past Huntu if he can, and then slow down to 2 and 3 for LSB, so that players like World, Cool, and Sungbin can start to catch up. But you know, Byungsu, the speed ace for LSB right now, he is off screen, but I guarantee you, him in that 6th position is sweeping his heart out, trying to keep Kwangdong Freaks under control. And so far here, about halfway through, oh no! Byungsu just fell off, he missed the skip!
Yeah, he tried to go for the Neil build there, and he completely misses it, and that is huge. But I mean, there's just not enough numbers here. Cool with a nice spin turn, but the distance is just too much. Doesn't matter if Byungsu falls off here. It looks like the 1-2 may just be the win condition. Shortcuts here clean. Cool trying to save some time to cut through, but it is not going to happen. Liiv SANDBOX are going to take this one 1 and 2 here. The win condition, risky moment there for Hyunsu on the missed jump. That's going to get his heart rate up, but Liiv SANDBOX will still take the first track.
Yeah, 1-2 coming through in the clutch there for LSB. You can see some laughs. Hyunsu, I mean, missing that turn. Oh, that's a painful one. It's kind of a tricky too, because you got to hit the hitbox on the bridge just right to be able to do the Neil build. And time again, we see these pro teams able to execute it, but here on the biggest stage with all of this pressure, Hyunsu falling a little bit flat, but luckily, Liiv SANDBOX had one of the best starts I've seen for them against KDF on any track all season. And they got the 1-2-3, and they basically didn't relinquish it the entire time, and they still finished with the 1-2.
And unfortunately for Kwang, it was really Spear, the only one who could compete with him there. And even though he's a fantastic sweeper in his own rights, they didn't have enough numbers. They didn't have enough behind him to actually pass and break through there. The defensive plays from Neil were quite good, to be totally honest. And we're going to see if that momentum is going to carry forward here for Liiv Sandbox as we now head into our second track, a classic here at KDL, Terracotta Twister. Off we go here, Liiv Sandbox with a dominant win on the first track. But in our second here, it's KWANGDONG FREECS who get the better start.
Yeah, Sungbin, Cool, and Spear right there in the third position. That's exactly where you want him to be, although Hyunsu with that nice inner line was able to pass it for just a moment. Now Spear, over the course of this entire KDL regular season, has been displaying some of the best sweeping we have seen, frankly, ever here in the KDL. He has absolutely been living up to his reputation as a fantastic sweeper, so we'll see that comes into play over the course of this entire finals. And you see him right there trying to collide with Byungsu, trying to throw him off track a little bit as we enter the tomb section. Byungsu, the lead racer here for LSB, but he's struggling to close the ground. Now, there weren't any hiccups there. That was pretty well executed from basically all four players entering the tomb, but the 1-2 lead here for Cool and Sungbin is so massive, Wolf.
The role for Spear now as the sweeper is to just prevent anyone from getting anywhere near Cool and Sungbin and just constantly trying to keep them at bay. It doesn't have to be Byungsu he stops. This is why you often see the 1-2-4 in these types of setups for KWANGDONG, because they're just trying to build distance between Sungbin, Cool, and the midfield, and Liiv Sandbox occupying the bottom of these spots. And Byungsu with a mistake here. This one's pretty much over. It's pretty much done, so look at the distance.
I don't even know if I would call that a mistake. He was trying to dodge Spear, and the Spear, I mean, his sweeping is just impeccable. Even World doing it. That's another LSB player clipping the corner. And I mean, I hate to be anti-hype, but the displays coming out from KWANGDONG FREECS, Spear, and even World coming in with some absolutely unbelievable blocking. Look at this. He's just stopping Neil at every turn.
Too, on the player cam.
Yeah,
he's laughing.
He's smiling, man. He is on the top of the world, and this is gonna be one of the most convincing ones he finishes. It's gonna be like a, man, I wish we went back to Hyunsu because I want to see how many meters from the finish line. That was like 150, 200 meter gap, and KDF responding with force there in track number 2 on Terracotta Twister. That was so dominant.
It was insanely dominant, more dominant than the first track we just saw. And Byungsu gets pushed in, tries to take that greedy line, gets swept away, but what else could he do? He has to try to force those lines or there's just no way he's going to be able to compete. He falls back, and it is a track record, as I was suggesting. With that much space, it will be Sungbin who actually takes Neil's track record away from him by, it looks like, almost an entire second.
Yeah.
And that's just what good sweeping is going to give you, the opportunity to basically time trial the track and not deal with any other obtrusions. With the momentum Liiv Sandbox had in that first track, it looked great, but man, a loss like that one is definitely going to take the wind out of your sails.
Man, KWANGDONG FREECS coming back with a vengeance there to tie this series up 1-1. Best of 5 continues on here in speed mode. Grand finals, Liiv Sandbox versus the KWANGDONG FREECS, and now we're going to the Sweepers Paradise Wolf Desert Construction Chaos. The 1-2 finish was absolutely massive there for the Freaks, but I gotta say the spotlight from that track for me, absolutely Spear, and we'll see what magic he can make happen here on Construction Chaos.
Now the start here was really nice for KWANGDONG at the outset, but they weren't able to actually maintain control here. World is the only who battles here in this top position, so I'm gonna try to take this inner line and cut across. Very competitive actually here in our top 5 right now, but Byungsu coming in again, trying to make sure they could push World back and gain control. Jimin here as we move into these really tight 90-degree turns here. Let's see how well he can hold off against one of the best racers in the world no pun intended.
Construction Chaos here on the uphills, going for the 90-degree turns. Some of the hardest possible plays you can make are passing a player with an inner line on these turns. You got to really manage your brakes. You got to be very careful going through some of these slower sections. And with Jimin and Byungsu having the lead, they have, ooh man, even an unforced error coming in right there on Sungbin. LSB starting to build a pretty big lead with both Jimin and Byungsu, the speed ace, absolutely rolling with this one after lap number 1.
Now, there's no real insurance policy here, though, for Jimin and Byungsu. They're both going to have to brace this basically flawlessly and make no mistakes here because the midfield is completely controlled by Kwangdong. Any mistake here, and they will win on points, absolutely. If you win 1 and 2, you're guaranteed to win the race in Kart Rider Drift. So Byungsu and Jimin have to hold on. As Jimin has improved so much as a player this year. He was the item ace, and now he's racing up here with Byungsu in top 2, competing with World, and he is just driving better right now.
World is taking some really nice lines, though. He's getting closer and closer, and it might come down to the blocking here for Jimin in the second rank position. Can he do it, or will World be able to find the inner line? He is closing the distance right now on these straightaways, taking some really greedy turns.
World is so close to actually closing that gap here. He takes this direct diagonal there, is in draft range now. He's closing the gap. He's got a chance here.
Oh, coming through right now with a draft could be absolutely huge. 3, 4, 5 right now for KDF. World is going to be able to take first place. No, just second and third. Is that going to be enough points, though? LSB are going to barely edge them out, I think. And yes, 20-19, as close as it could possibly get. And Liiv SANDBOX, although they had a dominant first lap there, only won by a thread.
And World's second lap there was incredible to watch. Some of the inners he took, the turns he was taking, the lines transitioning from 190 to the next without losing any speed. The break he took to take that diagonal to give him that final jump opportunity was almost enough to put Kwangdong back in it. It's cool being an 8th, really, that unfortunately for Kwangdong Freaks will stop them from taking this just by a single point. But I gotta give Jimin and Byungsu credit as well. They held on to that lead for so long, knowing the midfield was Kwangdong Freeks'. They raced perfectly, they took every risk. They did not just take it safe because they knew if they fall behind, if they give Cool that opportunity, it's not going to be an option for them. They're just simply going to lose.
Yeah, but props to Neil and Hyunsu for coming back on those lower ranks and reinforcing the midfield as LSB takes the lead 2-1. Let's go to track number 4. It's gonna be WKC Brazil Circuit.
Off we go, Liiv SANDBOX with the momentum advantage, 2-1 here in speed. It's been much more competitive than a lot of analysts predicted going into this finals. And once again, Liiv SANDBOX with a better start here on what is a very open 2-lap track. There's a lot of different lines you can take. You can use your nitro to actually take an unusual path through the grass. There are the most efficient lines you can take, but you can take an unusual one if you want to use that nitro, as Neil's going to do here, to cut across and actually take a risk. And it pays off here. It maintains top 3. Very competitive start to this race. Spear trying to cut his way into top 5 so we can start some of that sweeping, but Liiv SANDBOX definitely have the numbers advantage right now.
Yeah, Liiv SANDBOX with a numbers advantage, and Jimin's really been racing out of his mind these past couple of tracks, just constantly threatening top 3 or top 2, as Sungbin is going to take the lead right now for KDF, but midfield besides Hyunsu in favor of Liiv SANDBOX, but oh man, that turn goes a little bit wide, and Kwangdong Freaks with a couple of tight inners there coming in from Spear and Cool now finally have the lead.
Let's see if Sungbin can hold on to this first place here. Jimin takes a nice draft and actually just skirts around him. Sungbin unable to find the block there, just too risky for him to actually try to go for it there. Would have lost too much momentum. He's hoping for Spear to actually come up and be the hero. Spear does maintain 4th place here, and Kwangdong Freaks just a point ahead. If Sungbin can get first, they are pretty much guaranteed, as we're going to see again that tight inner through the grass here taken by Liiv SANDBOX in the second lap.
Yeah, but Brazil Circuit is one of those harder tracks to actually hold on to that one-rank position coming down this stretch, as there are a lot of different lines. You can't really block all angles on this track, so for LSB right now, trying to threaten Sungbin any way they can. Jimin going to come in with a trap. He has double blue nitrous in the bag, as does Byungsu. They're going to try and use those, but Sungbin, to his credit, he's doing a fantastic job zoning them out.
Oh,
will it be enough, though?
Great block. It's so close here right now. Sungbin maintaining first with Cool. They could get a 1-2 here. Byungsu on the outer. Does he have enough speed? I don't think so. It is not going to be enough, and Kwangdong Freaks will tie us up 2-2 here with a 1-2 finish. Absolutely close. This one down to the wire. Had to get a photo finish for that one. And I mean, like you said, it's so hard to defend on this track, and Sungbin had so many moments where he actually blocked on a turn in some of those wider grassy areas in the final 1,000 meters or so of the track. He maintains first place and actually sets a track record over his teammate Cool. And that was one, I mean, that was, you see that, then you see Cool is right behind him, then you see Jimin as well, also would have broken the record. You realize, goodness, how well everyone is racing tonight. It is insane.
I mean, everybody, whether it be Kwangdong Freaks or Liiv SANDBOX, they are stepping up, as We're going to track number 5 here in a moment, all tied up 2-2. The winner of this track will take speed mode here in phase 1 of the finals. All coming down to this. Will it be KWANGDONG FREECS or Liiv SANDBOX who take speed in the first phase? We're about to find out here as we head on to the last track, Glacier Extreme Stadium. It's been a back and forth best of 5 from start to finish, and Jimin really has been a star here for LSB. Once again, off to a great start, and Byung-Soo as well, just barely getting ahead of Sungbin. Oh, a little bit of ping pong in there, though.
Yeah, a bit of a bump there, but man, Jimin and Byung-Soo, their starts have been so consistent, and that is half the battle, honestly, in speed mode. Sungbin here once again takes first place. Oh, nice attempt there to push Jimin, but it does backfire. Jimin actually will sneak around that outer. Now he and Hyunsoo are fighting for that 1 and 2 with Spear here, who's been the unlikely runner here for KWANGDONG FREECS tonight in this finals thus far. As here comes the first hairpins, this is the real test.
Yeah, Spear now coming in here in second place. Will he be able to find the inner line to actually upseat Jimin from this first-ranked position? Third place does belong to Hyunsoo, so Spear would love to close the distance, but barring a nice draft right here, he might be able to take it on this turn, but Jimin with a block again, really slowing him down. And the top 4 is rounded out with 2 more Liiv SANDBOX players. And Wolf, I mean, lap number 1, it's done. Liiv SANDBOX is looking like they might be taking speed mode here in phase 1.
It does look that way, and that would be such a momentum breaker for KWANGDONG, who historically have struggled on items so much here, but it's really just Spear alone, just like track 1. World tries to find his way in here, but he doesn't have the angle as Byung-Soo blocks him twice. And it's really going to have to be some miraculous hairpin actually, or a huge mistake from Jimin, but he already had such a great first hairpin here. I just don't see KWANGDONG FREECS taking this unless something drastic happens. Let's see what World can get done.
It's getting closer and closer, though. Spear does have that first place position, and if World can find some miracle to join him there in the higher ranks, there is a world where KDF is able to take this one, but Liiv SANDBOX right now in control as we enter the final 400 meters. Everyone goes to the jump turn, and the 1-3-4. No, it's going to be a 1-2-3 here for LSB. And in a surprising upset, phase 1 speed going into the advantage of Liiv SANDBOX. I mean, I was not anticipating this start at all to the grand finals.
Absolutely not. And to see 2/3 of those wins to be as dominant as they were. Track 1 pretty dominant, and then the final track a 1-2-3. It mirrored track 1 in a lot of ways, where it was just Spear, the only one who could really challenge, but Hyunsoo, Neil, and Byung-Soo take it in the end. 1, 2, and 3. Jimin does fall back there, but the fantastic starts we are seeing from Liiv SANDBOX are really quite a departure from what we've seen when these teams have matched up at speed across this year, and clearly the work has been put in here, because KWANGDONG FREECS, like Aura were when they were one of the underdogs running back in the preseasons, were known for extremely good setups early, taking those early advantages and then running with them. And we saw the exact opposite for the majority of those tracks here with Liiv SANDBOX, and that is a very telling sign that maybe this could be the night for them, as we will now have Dalda in for Neil. He'll be subbing out because the item ace is coming in for item mode. But State, man, I think the momentum has shifted. If you ask me who I think is going to take it now, I might have to change my opinion, because this is a different Liiv SANDBOX, what we are seeing tonight in this finals.
I mean, out of the gate, in pretty much every single track, Liiv SANDBOX was playing to win, and they made statements on 3 out of those 5 tracks with their openings just absolutely phenomenal. Now, we are going to switch gears here and move into item mode, as Liiv SANDBOX with item mode priority, and on paper, they are the favorite team here in item. It's going to be Mind Motherload there for track number 1. After that, we will go to Forest Misty Falls, Graveyard Dark Castle, and then should there be a track 4 and track 5, they will be World Tour London Night and Factory Cogwheel Crush, which is kind of a crazy pick there.
Yeah.
For track 5 for Liiv SANDBOX. But yeah, I'm with you. I feel the momentum has shifted here in phase number 1. I'm absolutely thinking Liiv SANDBOX has what it takes to bring down the Freaks.
To contextualize why we think Liiv SANDBOX is stronger in item, they have a former item ace and a dedicated item ace, so almost 2. KWANGDONG FREECS don't have any. They're a 4-man roster. They don't have someone dedicated for item mode. Their focus has always been speed. We'll see if they can turn this series around as we start item mode off on Mind Motherload. Liiv Liiv Sandbox in phase 1 have the speed win here. 3 wins and item is all they need to start this series off 1-0.
I mean, if any team in the world can take down Kwangdong FREECS in item mode, I feel like it's going to be Liiv Sandbox. As a nice water balloon comes in from the item ace, able to catch World there and slow down KDF a little bit.
Early Angel popped here just to give Cool that extra momentum, and we can see that tempo come through as World's also going to pop a Magnet early. They want to get 2 front runners up here so that they can actually allow Cool to absorb as much of the pressure so World can build that distance. But in a 3-lap track like this, it usually doesn't work out this early. I think Kwangdong FREECS' strategy may have backfired a little bit here. A lot of resources used.
Double Magnet right there used on World. Going up that uphill as he loses a ton of momentum. And now Hyunsu and Jimin, at least for the moment, will be taking the top 3 positions there alongside World, really threatening and putting a damper onto this tempo-based play that World is trying. Now Dalda, the item ace, once again coming through with a nice Siren there. This is one of those higher difficulty tracks, so these items can pop. Just spins it out. Shield gets popped, absorbing some of the aggro as World once again back in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a quite unusual approach, because usually you give up after losing momentum like that, but they keep using the Angels early. He popped 2 shields, he had the EMP, he's still maintained first place, and again, they have more people around him. He's going to avoid this bomb. Let's see what he picks up. Can he grab 2 shields? He does. Goes on the diagonal, gets 2 shields, and I mean, we're getting closer to the 3rd lap, and maybe with him absorbing all of this pressure here, if he just gets someone else up there, if Cool can actually get to that 2nd place spot, he might be able to pull this off, but Youngsu's already passed him now, and he's got the big banana.
Big banana gets dropped. Nobody does hit it. His Cool's gonna come in. Oh man, the boost plus the Siren actually just bought so much room.
That was massive
for KDF. And now Spear can try and do a little bit of sweeping. If he can get an attack or 2 here, that could be very big for KDF. Cool right now is still in the lead, but Dalda with double Magnet is gonna be able to slow this down, and he's actually gonna take the lead here on the shortcut. He does fall down for the moment, but Cool's really been slowed down, and Jimin as well. He has 2 magnets.
2 magnets here as we get towards the end of this 3rd lap. 500 meters to go, magnets out, and they just push through. They've found the timing here. Cool's got a bomb.
Wow.
How good is it going to be this time? He misses.
That's going to be it, man. LSB taking track number 1 as KDF hard committing to the tempo play. Absolutely investing everything. The item rotations were about as fast as they could possibly be. Oftentimes on tracks like these ones, we see players try to hold on to the big team play items like Angel Shields for critical moments, but instead, for the FREECS, they just wanted to cycle everything through. They wanted to take every possible item they could from every box along the route. But in this case, I mean, LSB got so many magnets in the front. I can't even count how many times the lead racers for KDF were getting magneted. I think it might have been like 5 or 6 over the course of that
and
track.
Dalda are the players who know the timings more than anybody here in this league. And so you try to get that tempo, but it backfires. You don't have enough of it. You lose a lot of momentum, and then that item timing there at the end with the magnets just so easy to pull off. It looked like I was watching preseason 1 again, and Kwangdong looked clueless. Liiv Sandbox, massive momentum now. They took speed. They've now got the first win on item. Kwangdong FREECS are really going to have to get their heads back into this.
Well, we are going to go to their track next. A 2-star difficulty track coming in. It will be Forest Misty Falls as phase 1 continues here for the grand finals. Liiv Sandbox, can they keep this momentum going? Continue on here with item round 2. LSB a little bit behind in the track winning rate over the course of this season. However, gotta say, the favored item mode team coming through this one, and Dalda off to a great start there at position 1.
Yep, Hyunsu narrowly making that jump there. Almost looked like he was going to be a little bit shy for a moment as Cool will eat the first UFO. And Hyunsu got a rocket here, see if he wants to hold it. Gonna toss that water bomb first.
He's been holding on to this water bomb for a while. I thought he was waiting to line it up and try and get 2 or 3 different KDF players. Does finally get Cool.
Cool gonna eat that wisp.
Yeah, a little bit of damage coming through. And Dalda right now in pole position yet again, although magnets popping here for KDF.
And I do wonder if it's wise to be using magnets on first laps on these 3-lap tracks like we're seeing Cool use, because he gained very little from that. He's cycling to obviously be able to then have a shield and get other value, but if you hold on to that magnet, sometimes you can get a little bit more of an advantage if you cycle through players. But either way, he still maintains first for now. We're on that 2nd lap here. See if he can hold on to his position, because he's again outnumbered, and this time faster than he was on the previous track.
Yeah, more water bombs coming in. We'll see if any of them are able to connect with Cool, although with him being so close to Dalda and Jimin, I would not be surprised to see Hyunsu and Byungsu hold on to those ones for quite a while. So the former item ace still in first place right now. He's able to cycle out his items, pick up a banana and a shield.
Spear's got some magnets here. He's going to pop one. He has a second one at the ready. Barrier here not going to connect onto Cool.
Slowed everybody down, though.
Yeah, this is actually still looking somewhat promising here for KWANGDONG FREECS if they get one major hit, one big item to connect. Oh, that's huge. Spear knocked back.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at the Nitrous right now. Hyunsu and Byungsu, both of them holding on to one Nitrous, and Hyunsu in a pretty good position, too. If he can get something like a magnet, okay, it is just going to be a shield, so he pops the Nitrous instead. Going to try and close the distance there on Cool. That Nitrous will allow him to work his way up into first place for a moment, but Cool with the better line. Able to maintain it. 300 meters left to go, Wolf.
Byungsu should be able to hit Cool here, though, unless he's got the shield for that. He does not. And that's going to be it. Byungsu just passed him there. Luck of the draw on that one. Run out of defensive items. He's got a rocket. You're outnumbered. And it feels like I watched a different version of what happened in track 1 here repeat itself. And I think if Cool has some support from a lightning pickup, for example, or if he has an extra angel shield with his teammates there to have that final push, it feels a lot safer. But he's just racing against everybody on the side of Liiv SANDBOX. So use the tempo more correctly, have that finish set up, and you're just going to be outgunned in the end. Sungmin here dropping down to second. And Byungsu will take it there by 2 seconds with that final rocket connecting. And Liiv SANDBOX are dominating this team right now in item mode.
Yeah, I feel like over the course of these 3-lap tracks, lap number 1, lap number 2, remarkably close, but once we get down that final stretch, both in track 1 and in track 2, LSB just has the better game plan, and that could just be the depth of this roster, having an item ace and a former item ace coming through with a shot calling. Let's see if they can sweep item mode and take phase number 1 here in the grand finals. We're moving on to track number 3, Graveyard Dark Castle.
Liiv SANDBOX 1 track away from taking phase 1, 2-0 here. But Spear will have the better start on the track selection here. Look at the track win rates at the bottom left, 83% for Liiv SANDBOX, one of their better tracks and one of the worst tracks here for KWANGDONG FREECS, and they haven't played it that much either. This is absolutely a constant battle track where you're always looking for bombs, you're always using your items aggressively. It does suit the playstyle we've been seeing from KWANGDONG FREECS so far in this item mode in phase 1. See if they can make it happen this time around. Otherwise, they lose this phase.
Yeah, some more attacks there coming in, and LSB absolutely dominating the midfield right now with so many players. For a moment there, they had 2, 3, 4, 5, and instead right now taking 1, 2, 3. That's a pretty happy LSB right there, as Dalda and Jimin are absolutely dominating this. We're going to get hit with another rocket as we finish lap number 1.
There's just more carts up here again for Liiv SANDBOX, so, you know, they just keep absorbing the pressure, whereas for Spear, he's just taking all of it. There's no one to block for him, there's no one to help him out, there's no angels, there's no defensive items, he just drops back to 7th here. Now you've got 3 Liiv SANDBOX players up in top 4 here. Dalda eats that with a shield, picks up double here, he's going to drop one right away, and they have not only the big tempo advantage for Dalda, but a lot of bodies here. Now that's going to change things. That's a big water bomb here for KWANGDONG FREECS.
Yeah, Hyunsu and one other player getting caught by that water bomb, as World and Spear are going to try and make something happen. World still is in first place, but with this UFO coming in, no EMP to be found. He's going to get slowed down quite a bit. And once again, the story repeats itself here in lap number 2. It's Dalda and Jimin leading the charge.
Yeah, just slow and steady wins the race here, just using your utility slowly over time and building up a large number of cards here. Even if you don't have first and second, if you have more towards the top half, you should win out in the final lap. That's the game plan here for Liiv SANDBOX. A Magnet Nitro combo set up here for Hyunsu, as well as a Wisp is going to get tossed out here now.
Yeah, that has absolutely caught my eye as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hyunsu just held onto those for a really long time here and try to let Dalda and potentially Jimin absorb some of the damage, as Hyunsu is going to pop. Well, actually didn't pop a Nitrous, or he picked another one up. In any case, he is still in first place with some very high value items. 500 meters to go. Oh my goodness, the barricade catches 2 players, and now Byungsu is going to try it on the outside to come in for the victory, but Sungmin might just have enough speed. He speds into the finish line. And man, I gotta say, KDF, I feel like they got bailed out a little bit on that one.
Yeah, look at the size of relief on those players' faces. That barricade saved it for them, and it was well timed. You can see the drivers always want to pull away right outside that portal, because you know when you leave that portal on this track, you're going to come out at one space basically where you can get hit by a water bomb that's well placed there, or a barricade in this case. The barricade actually slows them down enough for someone to take that outer line and push through, and it disrupted the whole game plan for Liiv SANDBOX to use that magnet rush to guarantee it with the blocks we were talking about. The KWANGDONG FREECS, they were on the edge of defeat, and while the barricade was well placed there, you still got to be feeling pretty rough about how that last track went. You got bailed out, as you said, but you were not winning it for a majority of that time.
Liiv SANDBOX been showing so much skill as we move on to one of the more technical tracks here in item mode. It's going to be World Tour London Night. Match point still for LSB. Continue on here in item mode. Liiv SANDBOX needing 1-track win to take the Phase 1 victory. KWANGDONG FREECS needing 2-track wins to force a 1v1 ace match here for Phase 1.
Yeah, really a lot of momentum in Liiv SANDBOX's side here, as Spear will absorb that water balloon well timed on the shield, but the UFO will connect. A little bit weird for him there. Off the jump will actually drop back to the end. 2 Angels picked up here for KWANGDONG FREECS. Ooh. They've been using those early so far.
They used another one.
Yeah.
Well, those Angel Shields getting cycled through quite quickly here. I think they're hoping they can find another one before this track is done, because just to put things into perspective here, if you're new to Kart Rider Drift or new to item mode specifically, World Tour London Night plays a little bit different from most of the other tracks. It's much more about the setup going into the final finish line, the final 300 meters. It's about having nitrous, it's about having magnets, it's about having big
shields,
attacks, whether it be UFOs or thunderbolts. It's not really about tempo. This is very rarely a tempo win track.
Yeah, you almost never will win off of getting a huge advantage. We've seen a lot of players try it. Jimin was famous for trying to do it many times on this track. Actually, Pre-Season 2, that's a big one there. But he's got the magnet nitro combo and a decent amount of distance here in first place. He's probably just going to hold on to that. Okay, Toss gets past here, but still holding on to those. There's the lightning coming out. If he could just hold this for an entire lap here and just stay in the midfield, do some blocks, maybe he doesn't actually cycle these and just holds it for that final push. Because this is the timing we were talking about. The observer's very well aware of this too, tracking him now.
Yeah, Jimin's still holding on to those key items, as he's going to hope that Hyunsu and Dalda can absorb some of this damage for him. Double Angel Shield in the bank here for LSB, so they can absorb a lot of aggro coming in from KWANGDONG FREECS. As you see most of these players, Jimin now is going to pop that. Oh, goes through the Water Wisp. Will that be able to connect on World? No, the shield is going to be able to block it. World with a lot of speed right now, 400 meters to go, but Jimin, can he have enough momentum? Sungmin gets caught by a Water Wisp. The shield, but he gets spinned out, and World on the outside alongside Spear is going to be able to cross the finish line first. And while LSB, I feel like they had a very good shot with the items they had in the bank. KWANGDONG FREECS played that one, frankly, a little bit better at the finish line.
And I think Jimin, it wasn't a mistake to actually use it early, because that's not really the timing window you want to finish the track with. But he realized, my team doesn't have midfield control. I'm outnumbered. I actually have to pop this right now and try to pick up a shield to absorb that pressure in my nitro push and then try to cross the finish line. But there was just too much distance left. He didn't have the momentum he needed to finish there. Gets hit by a rocket eventually, but I still think it was the right call to try to go for it early. If he waits any longer, there's just no chance he's going to be able to break through there. He doesn't have a shield if he doesn't get that last item box. So he realized, going for my combo, grab that last shield, maybe it'll be enough. It wasn't, however, and now we're going to a 5th one here. Maybe KWANGDONG FREECS could actually reverse sweep the item here and bring us to that ace match.
Track number 5 about to come up. KWANGDONG FREECS fighting for their life here in Phase 1. Liiv SANDBOX trying to close this one out with a victory. Let's go on to one of the most peculiar and unique tracks, Factory Cogwheel Crush.
Off we go, 2-2 here. KWANGDONG FREECS have absolutely turned the momentum around. Jimin gonna look for some strong items here. We'll grab a UFO early. The winner of this will determine whether we are going to a 2-0 here for Liiv SANDBOX in Phase 1, or if we're going to an ace match here to decide the first phase. So much on the line here for KWANGDONG FREECS.
I mean, absolutely is. Cogwheel Crush, one of these tracks that, I mean, we don't see very often in item mode, whether it be in the regular season or in the postseason. Just plays so differently with all the obstacles that are thrown around here. There are also some spots like this ramp where water balloons, if you're able to time them out correctly, can get a ton of damage done, but
there's just so much volatility here with the environmental hazards off the track, these doors that open and close, the bananas that are placed on conveyor belts, shortcuts. There's so much going on here. A lot of pro players like to avoid this track just because it doesn't feel like it's always in your control. And it's insane that it is going to be the one that decides this entire item round here, this 5th and final one. See right now, Cool sitting up in first place, does have a banana. We'll see if he can place it on a choke point up here. Maybe going to try to toss it out now. Nope, just hold it. Not get anything.
Comes in with a radar, gets a quick look at the item inventory there for KDF, and I think what he did, they might have had only one item in total in the bank, everyone's cycling through about as quickly as they possibly can. Byung-Soo fishing for a couple more siren shots, but only gets the one block right there as Dalda continuing to take this lead. He is able to go right behind that banana peel as Spear comes through with double EMP. Not really the item inventory you want to have there in the front.
Not really, and double shield here could be utilized for his teammates if he drops back. He is going to get hit by that alarm, and we'll sit back now. Cool blocks this bomb that was really well timed. That's the choke point you were talking about in the previous lap. Let's see if anyone can pass Cool right now. Hyunsu does have a nitro.
Might come down to that shortcut. We'll have to see exactly what the timing is going to be. And actually, yeah, both Hyunsu and Cool are going to go through this one. The difference is Hyunsu right now, he has a nitrous. Cool does not. Cool with only a shield. 300 meters left to go. And Hyunsu's going to boost his way to that finish line unless some attacks come in. The shield pops. And LSB is going to take phase 1 of this best of 3, man. What a world we're living in right now. LSB wins speed. They win item mode. And now KDF is up against the ropes going into phase 2.
Absolutely. And the way that was played out by Hyunsu was just incredible because he had, I think, 3 different opportunities to cycle that nitro out to say, I'm going to look for an attacking item. But instead, he holds it. Instead, he waits for his moment. He's like, it's RNG. If they get a rocket on me and I don't have a shield, that's it. But I better hold this nitro because if they don't have any way to stop my nitro, if he's just holding shields, if he's stacking shields, that's the one card, that's the one ace I have up my sleeve. You can't block me boost and pass with that shield. You can block a rocket, you can block a bomb. I guarantee he's probably got shields. You have a higher chance of picking up shields at the front of the pack than you will of ever getting another nitro. He holds a nitro, he pulls it off. Great decision making here. And that's going to be what wins Liiv Sandbox, that final track. Both of these going the distance all the way to 5, but it's now a 1-0 for Liiv Sandbox.
This is only the 2nd time this year in the KDL that Liiv Sandbox has been able to take a set from KWANGDONG FREECS. In the 2nd preseason, they were able to win one of the phases, much like they just won this one, but they ultimately were defeated in the final King of the Hill showdown. But now, they're riding a lot of momentum, Wolf. 3-2 in speed, 3-2 in item. Yes, it was remarkably close, but a win is a win.
A win is a win. And you got to be scared if you're KWANGDONG because item, you know, that could have been shaky always, right? You knew that Liiv Sandbox is a stronger team in item mode, but the way they lost speed, you know, is what really concerns you if you're a KWANGDONG FREECS fan because you're probably also feeling confident about ace matches, but if you don't get to go there because you lose speed and then the item goes the way of Liiv Sandbox, it can be rough. But we're going to take a short break, guys. When we come back, finals, phase 2.
효로. 나봐봐. 끝까지. 안돼 물.
지민아 말해봐 지민아. 영수야 말해봐.
목소리 잘 들린다.
아니 뭐야 씨.
목소리 뭐야 이거?
하지 말라고.
아니 목소리 때문에 잘 안 들려 이거.
나 아니야.
나도 아니야.
나다. 아니 어제 5명이 동시에 말하는데 들리더라.
이 트랙 같은 경우는 사실상 미래 세종이 약점 중에 하나입니다. 지금 승리 없이 3패인데
살짝 2대1 된다 근데.
잡았어?
가봐.
일단 7, 8.
영사 우리 바로 돼 있어 우리.
살았어?
불전 먹게 나. 올라갈게. 가봐.
나 빨리 가서 스탑 해놨어. 빨랐어 나.
앞선 라운드에서는 가드와 독이 약간 좀 저전 느낌이 있었는데 지금은 날아다니고 있던지.
나가서 가봐. 형 1등만 잡고 있자. 쟤도 뚫을게. 하나 실수했어. 근데 가. 오케이 나갈게.
우리 7, 8 되면 안 돼. 조심해. 앞에 섰자.
예. 뒤로 커버 쳐놨어. 뒤에 보고 가볼게. 뒤에 쳐봤어 커버. 7, 8 하지 말아봐.
7, 8 아니야.
나 오른쪽 빨았어요.
1등 봐봐. 안 되면 뒤로 서야 되나?
왼쪽 가. 형도 가봐. 빨리야 이거. 2등만 잡아줘. 밀어줄게.
나 1등이야. 자, 먼저 표정이 드러납니다. 이러면 미래의 세종입니다.
나이스. 호준이 형 나이스. 형 백업 나이스 호준이 형.
나 잘 빨려가지고 속도 빼고 오른쪽 쭉 끌었어.
나이스. 잘 버티긴 했어. 호준이 형이 잘해줬어.
일단 잘 버텼다.
리브 샌드박스가 평소처럼 철벽 같은 밸런스로 경기를 계속해서 리드하고 있다면
죽여놨어 한 명.
나이스. 일단 가봐. 나 갈게.
천천히 해봐 영준아.
네.
뒤에 있으니까.
살아봐.
나 그래서 가요.
7, 8 잡아놨어. 7, 8 아니야. 먼저 가줘.
뒤에 급하게 안 해도 돼. 쟤들이 사고 난다 그거.
팀이 살기만 해봐. 나이스. 호정 달리기만.
원투 봐도 돼 이거.
뒤에도 잡아놨어. 딱 직구.
호준에게 먼저 빠져나갈 수 있도록 양보를 해줬다는 게 중요한 거예요. 그것이 커뮤니케이션을 통해서 이루어졌습니다.
형 버틸게 영준아. 사람만 와봐.
네. 형 계속 가볼래요? 나이스. 지민아 왔어. 죽였어. 7, 8이야. 7, 8이래.
나이스.
고정은 아니야. 고정 아니래. 우리 2, 3이야. 1은 해줘. 나 2번 볼게. 이거 1대1 해봐. 2번 잡아왔어.
나이스.
2번 뚫려요 형.
이제 빨려. 사람만 있어봐.
안 빨려. 지민아 가도 돼? 봐봐 호준. 달리기만.
우리 왔어.
왔어 우리도. 이제 막았어. 족보 가볼래? 미들 봐도 돼. 나이스.
떨어지 마.
1등만 하면 돼. 1등만.
빨고 1등이야.
죽였어.
나이스. 아직 18이야.
끝까지 해봐.
나 인코.
원투. 이러면 리브 샌드박스입니다.
팀이 잘
아,
버텼다.
좀 도와줘 얘들아.
나이스.
힘드네 이들.
나 7, 8 지고 끝까지 막았다.
잘했어.
늦게 나면 오긴 했어.
아 나이스. 든든하다.
나이스.
다행이다.
이게 이어졌을 때 주요 타이밍에 세종이 픽을 해놨던 거고 포지션이 이미 어느 정도 괜찮아요.
영사 나 빨린다. 나 빨았다.
나 빨았어.
이제 나이스. 가봐.
나이스.
나 직구 할게.
짚고 가 살짝.
찌포.
그냥 가볼래?
알았어.
갈게 내가.
나 잡아놨어. 가운데 둘. 빨려요.
나 빨린다.
앞에서 하나 돼. 속이 좀 맞춰왔어.
1등 잡아놨다 이거.
나이스. 막아냈어.
현재 팀전체에는 아슬아슬하긴 합니다만 일단 지민이를 유지하고 있고 병수도 한 명 있어요 뒤에서.
이거 잡아놨어. 형도 가봐. 나 뒤에 잡았다. 호준 하나 뚫렸다 그러지.
이거 앞뒤에.
일단 잡아볼게.
오케이. 1담에 이겨. 하나 죽였어. 나이스. 형 가요? 직구 없어 앞에. 이들로 한다 얘네. 나 들렸다 뭐. 나 살았어. 1, 4, 5. 회장 가.
1, 4, 5 해야 돼. 1, 4, 5 해야 돼.
1등
1, 4, 5 해야 돼.
회장 그냥 가. 내가 빨게. 형이 가봐. 1안돼. 뛰어 막았어.
1등. 뒤로 돌려.
와 이거 밀고 이러면 2, 4, 5.
1, 4.
끝까지.
나 살았어. 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5.
나이스.
나이스.
뭐야? 뭐지 오늘?
지민이 잘했네.
3, 5, 7.
4.
까비.
출구 내가 엇갈 너무 많이 당했다.
여러 가지들은 챔피언스마스가 또 굉장히 잘 보여주고 있습니다.
실수만 하지 마 정수야. 그막 투탭 못 쳐도 되니까 막 떨어지지 말고 그런 거 있잖아.
7, 8만 안 하려고
아프게 맞은 거 그런 거. 그거 바로 말해야 돼 꼴찌가 멀면.
얍.
가지 말라고.
야 이겨야 돼.
오케이 화이팅. 화이팅 하자. 오케이 힘 내봅시다.
아까 2렙에 공템 아픈 거 있으면 맞지 말자 한 거.
아무도
한 명 더요?
아, 한 명이라고.
오케이.
한명 나오잖아.
가자.
오케이.
네.
아리.
예측을 해야 했다면 이제부터는 스캐너를 통해서 보고 판단할 수 있겠는데요.
나이스 수위 좋아.
가봐.
물 간다 선두.
안 깔게 이거.
가봐 가봐.
안 깔게.
어.
오른쪽 파이트
야, 이게
얘들아.
뒤로 물쳤어,
불가.
이거.
오른쪽.
아, 잡히나? 아, 안 잡혔다.
거리 셋.
나야.
미사일.
1등 미사일 맞지.
이빨 살아있다.
이빨 살아있어.
나야 달다.
야,
돌릴게.
이게 사이렌.
사이렌 맞아.
좀 아파?
하나 미사일 줬어 앞에.
1미에서 새로운 애 히어로 해제했다.
나이스. 승미 하나. 나 파리.
거리 안 된다 물거리. 옷만 가져.
파리 피했고.
또 한 번 천사까지 다 쓰면서 버티고 있습니다 지민.
물거리 살짝 안 되는데 하나 된다 생각해봐.
얘들아 순위 좋아.
남은 게 스캔.
아 맞아. 1등 빼고 다 맞아. 하나 더 줬어. 하나 더 줬어.
오케이.
다 들었어.
잘.
물 조심.
1등 빼고 다 맞아. 호준이 앞에 찍게.
바드 물 있던데.
아이고 미안하다.
진짜 나 해지 버릴게.
야 가지 말자.
가지마. 오케이. 다음에 안 갈게.
가지 마.
아예 안 갈게.
우주폴.
잠깐만. 우주.
근데 그렇게 안 멀다 앞에 있어. 나
여기 나
붙을게 이거.
빠졌어요.
나 붙을게.
샌드박스가 한 명씩 돌파를 하겠죠.
자 옆으로 빠져나 병수가 병수가.
12 자석 부스터.
앞에 물 쳐놓게.
오케이.
젠다
잡았어,
불가. 지민이 짜부야 이거.
나이스 브리피.
지민 있어야 돼.
나 미사일.
우주 있어.
피가.
우주.
실드.
게임이.
막상 봐봐. 막상 봐봐. 넘어가 볼게.
나 넘어갈게 이거.
나 넘어갈게.
끝까지 해봐. 끝까지 해봐.
잡았어.
예. 서서 했어. 못 박게.
나이스.
쳤어.
천삼개 카드가 들어옵니다.
스캔 나이스였다.
나이스. 나가는 물 어떤데?
나이스.
그거. 나 그냥 나 짜브라해서 그냥 이렇게 넘어갔어.
지민이가 짜부 들고 있어가지고 계속 지민만 썼어.
그거 잘했다.
적절한 타이밍에 적절한 아이템으로 그 속도를 죽여버리기 때문에 지금 태종이 고생을 많이 하고 있는 거죠.
날라왔다. 파리 두 개. 파리 두 개.
깔.
두개 깔았다.
나 미사일.
나이스.
영진 앞두고.
나 투실. 빨렸다 나.
해봤어 뭐.
우주 해도 돼.
우리 거리 떼야겠다.
오케이.
우주 하나 더 써. 우주 맞아.
나 이거 3당 돌릴게.
돌려줘. 거리 시작해.
거리 다 돼.
나
사이렌 3등 2등. 살짝 뒤에.
알았어.
경대 칠래?
3대1 칠게.
저.
칠아. 천천히 좀 봐.
물가.
난 2등.
쟤냈어.
발이 한 방.
버려도 돼. 버려.
버리 돼요.
지금 상황은 생각보다 좀 아쉽거든요. 마지막까지 조금 더 힘을 내야죠.
나 왼쪽 2등 들었다 가드.
나 오른쪽 1번.
나도 오른쪽
1파 줄게. 나 미사일.
쏴봐.
1일까지.
우주 할게.
나 아파.
얘들 발이 살아있어.
지민이랑 아프대.
1미 줬어 그럼.
끌어야 돼.
알았어.
끌어야 돼.
1미 실드.
우리 캠 부족하다. 나 파리.
나 파리.
천천히 해봐. 많이 멀진 않아.
걸었어 내가 선두.
공대 대기. 1등 물. 물가.
나이스
나이스.
연수.
우주 하나씩.
끌어.
안 갈게.
먼저다.
나만 짧게. 내가 2개 다 줄게.
이른 태종 입장에서는 각자 슈퍼 플레이할 준비가 좀 돼 있어야겠죠.
돌렸어 뒤에.
짜리 멀티 사이드.
현수야 두고 가야 돼.
나왔어? 와 아프다 이거.
돌렸어 뒤에. 나이스.
현수는 그래도 투실드가 있어요. 이러면은 혼자 고립됐다기보다 시간을 약간 벌 수 있거든요.
형 3등까지.
나도 우주 왔어.
거리 다 돼.
우주 있어.
두고 가야 돼.
나 싸움 살린다.
나 2등 사줄게.
나왔어 지민아. 내가 빨고 붙어줄게. 현수야 나야.
파리 깔아도 돼?
한 명 가져. 빨.
밀었다.
나이스.
빨리 맞았다.
뒤에 타줄게 이거. 뒤에서 오네.
나 우주. 아 이거 천천히 해봐. 물 두 개야. 물 두 개야 얘들아.
나 봐봐. 선사 있다. 천. 일단 쐈어. 불.
휴로. 막대로 지금 여기서 달다.
일단 쐈어. 사줄까?
끝까지.
힘이 하나 더. 하나 더.
나이스.
그거 내 물이라고, 내가 던진 물이라고 병수는 말하고 있어요.
점점 강해진다는 것을 보여주면서 올라왔습니다.
Welcome back to the KDL 2023 Team League Finals. My name is Wolf, still with State. And we had Phase 1 go a little bit unexpected. We had Liiv SANDBOX take it 2-0, no ace match required. They won speed, which was a shocker, and then denied the reverse sweep in item mode. They have all the momentum right now.
Yeah, in kind of a crazy turn of events. You know, coming in, talking about this in the first pre-show, we were discussing how, KWANGDONG FREECS, they don't really feel like they're beatable in speed. They've been killers from KDL preseason 1 all the way into the regular season. It feels like every iteration of KDF, they keep getting better. And then Liiv SANDBOX had some of the most impressive starts in speed tracks I've ever seen. I think every single one of the tracks that they won in speed, they just got this lead early on with either one or two players, and they basically just never relinquished it.
Yeah, and on the other hand, for the side of KWANGDONG FREECS, they just haven't been able to maintain the ability to get anybody but Spear up into the front on those losses. So really unfortunate for the side of Kwangdong Freaks that they just can't get their normal setup, which is to have 2 of their runners in first and second, and then to have Spear in fourth. It was Spear in second. The midfield was dominated by Kwangdong Freaks, but they could never really push it to the next level because the starts were so fantastic for usually Jimin and Byung-Soo. So here are our results if you are just tuning in. Both of these did go to 5. But the momentum felt like all along the way was massively in Liiv Sandbox's favor. Yes, Terracotta Twister was insanely dominant for Kwangdong Freaks, but beyond that, you know, the Dark Castle win for the side of Kwangdong Freaks looked like it was almost a gimme. It was super close. They just barely got away with it. London Knight, it was a nice timing there, but it just feels like it's Liiv Sandbox's night tonight, and I didn't think we'd be saying that. I predicted, you know, Kwangdong Freaks to take this 2-0, as did many of the teams, but Liiv Sandbox clearly have improved a lot since these teams last faced off against each other.
Yeah, but speed mode, as you were saying, really didn't play out how any of us expected. I mean, 3-2 for Liiv Sandbox. Okay, I can live in a world where that happens, where Liiv Sandbox is winning in speed against Kwangdong Freaks very closely, but how it played out individually for the Razors on each team was so strange. We think of Spear, and we think of him being like in rank 4 or in rank 5 and doing some incredible sweeping plays as we're getting ready to go through the draft here for phase number 2. But he was the runner, basically.
Yeah.
Nobody else had a great start. So it's kind of crazy. You know, the same thing for Liiv Sandbox. Jimin was just playing fantastically. He was one of the lead runners every single time, whereas I feel like we don't get to see that from him too often. It's either Byung-Soo or it's Neil, so
last time we saw this taken out, but Liiv Sandbox actually have track priority this time around on speed, so they even have that extra advantage here going to speed, and they will select it before the bans come through. That's what the priority will gain you. So they get the Village Bayside Bridge Run this time around. We'll see what that first ban is going to be. It'll be Mine Winding Slopes. A second time here, they did ban it in the first phase.
Yeah, banned both phases here for Liiv Sandbox. Is Kwangdong Freaks now going to come through with ban number 2, just taking their time, although thinking back to phase 1, they were really quick with the bans and the picks, and now it feels like
the pressure's on.
The pressure's on. They're slowing it down a little bit. They are going to ban out Facility 5. I think it's a smart move for the Freaks. I feel like it doesn't really play to their strengths, which is honestly really their raw mechanics. I think mechanically Kwangdong Freaks absolutely the best team in the league when it comes to speed. So going for one of the more technical tracks in the pick in Desert Construction Chaos, we can see potentially if Spear can shine there again as he did many times over the course of the regular season.
Now we'll see what this pick here for Liiv Sandbox is going to be. It could just be Terracotta Twister once again. Wouldn't be surprised to see it. It's a track that both these teams are very good at and had a fantastic race there earlier. But taking us to Miami Drive instead, actually. Bit of a curveball here. It's a track I associate with Neil quite a bit. I think he's very good on this track. Similar to New York, we saw from him in preseason 1. It's a track that suits his playstyle. And they'll take away Boom Hill Tunnel, which was the first pick for Kwangdong Freaks in phase 1 as well. So taking that one away, even though they dominated there, they said not letting Kwangdong Freaks have that comfort pick.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a meta game here in terms of the draft, playing a lot off of the phase 1 draft here from both sides.
Glacier Extreme Stadium could be removed here as well. Kwangdong Freaks, if they want to take that one away, it's going to be Touring Rally instead, though, again.
I feel like you have to leave Glacier Extreme Stadium in. I know that Spear personally doesn't like it very much because it's not really a sweeping track, but the rest of the players on Kwangdong Freaks, very good on Glacier Extreme Stadium. I expect that to be picked either in round 4 or round 5 from either of these teams.
And the question is, do Kwangdong Freaks pick it? No, I think it's going to be both. Again, the two critical tracks we talked about in phase 1. Terracotta Twister here first for Kwangdong, and I think that Glacier should be coming through for Liiv Sandbox. You know, what other curveballs do they really want to show us here? I mean, Handy Harbor's still available, but you don't want to. I don't know if you really want to pull that one out in round 5. You've already gotten so much momentum. It's so much volatility on that track, and it will be, as expected, Glacier Extreme Stadium here.
We're so smart, Wolf. Oh my goodness.
We just know. We
just know. Put us on stage.
Yeah.
We should be racing.
And maybe at least doing the map selections or the track selections. I could give you that one. I could do that one. I don't know if I could race with these guys. I don't think I could hang. I'd probably retire every race trying to hang with these guys. They finish so fast.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I like how Liiv Sandbox played that draft. It feels like they were kind of metagaming KDF a lot more than KDF was metagaming them based on the phase 1 picks. I think KDF here was just trying to play to their own strengths, where Liiv Sandbox was like, All right, let's see if we can pick some of the maps that you banned there in the first phase and then maybe throw a couple of curveballs your way.
You always have the advantage when you have speed priority second in this because you can react to what has already happened. Whereas if you have it first and you win, then they have to react to you, but they still have that opportunity in the second one to get that advantage. But if you lose the first one, it feels really bad because now they have this extra edge on you. They've already taken phase one. I'm going to move into item here. We'll see what Kwangdong FREECS have planned this time around, as this is it, do or die right now with Liiv SANDBOX taking this first phase, and they'll take out Graveyard Cemetery Circuit. Not a surprise, they did that. It was actually banned last time by Liiv SANDBOX. No one wants to play on this track right now.
Yeah, and the ban coming through is going to be Mine Motherload there. First ban for Kwangdong FREECS as Liiv SANDBOX is getting ready to make their selection.
Yeah, Mine Motherload is where the Dalda finish happened last time. They do not want to relive that bad memory from phase one.
Forest Misty follows the ban here for Liiv SANDBOX as we are speeding along here in item mode. Selection coming in is will be Graveyard Dark Castle.
They could go for an early pickup here of London Knight or go for the Clock Tower Crossing if they want to go for more timing-oriented tracks because they seem to have that down. It will be Graveyard Dark Castle again here instead, though.
The Graveyard tracks are so good for Liiv SANDBOX. They've really been dominating those tracks over the course of this year. I've been impressed with their play a ton.
If you look at the stats here, this track absolutely makes sense. But if you look at what happened on the track itself and how they've been playing tonight, I am pretty shocked to see Kwangdong FREECS actually pick World Tour London Knight against a Liiv SANDBOX that have shown so much versatility and great timings to close these tracks out.
I think you just trust the larger data set instead of the one map that you played earlier, because there is a lot of volatility in item mode from track to track. When it comes to showing skill in item mode, it comes over large sample sizes because there is some variance in each specific track, each specific race.
So they didn't take Clock Tower Crossing. Kwangdong FREECS takes that away. Forest Mushroom Caves will be banned again.
Oh, my
And then Mine Magma Cavern. This one is coming through.
I'm doing my little Magma Cavern dance, man. It's my favorite item mode track by
It's a great
far.
track. It's a great
love
track.
It. Oh,
Final
man.
track. Will we see? I don't think we're going to see Cogwheel Crush again. Kwangdong FREECS this time has the final selection. One more than they had last time. Where did they want to take us here? It was really important that fifth track last time. It's going to be Seaplane base.
I think that pick makes a lot of sense here for Kwangdong FREECS. Even though the stats don't really back them up, I think they're slightly more tempo-oriented play. You know, while Seaplane base isn't the best tempo map, it is better than, you know, a lot of these other tracks that are available here for the FREECS. So if they want to play to their strengths, similar to the way they did it when they were attempting the reverse sweep in phase number one, I do like that selection.
Yeah, it's not a bad one by any means, and it's, you know, a little bit more safe than Cogwheel Crush, for example, if all your hopes and dreams are on that one.
Imagine deciding the championship on Cogwheel Crush of all tracks.
It could have happened, but it's not going to be happening, at least not this time around, not in our first real KDL finals. So if we do see Kwangdong FREECS win this final phase here, we will go into a King of the Hill matchup, which is going to be in what we like to call the all-kill format here in Korea. It's been a pretty standard format for StarCraft leagues and other leagues out here. And we chose some of the matches that we really would love to see if we, in fact, go to that final phase. I went for Cool and Neil. I want to see the rematch from what we saw last week. It's definitely the standout matchup for me. I think it's very likely that if Neil ends up getting ahead and there's a player that's going to be chosen, because the first one will be random. No one knows who your opponent's going to be, right? You don't know who you're going to face off against. But, for example, if Neil wins one, they'll call Cool out. He beat him before. You know, could be World as well they call out. But that's the one that I expect we'll see it for sure, and the one I want to see the most.
Yeah, for me, I'm mostly interested in seeing Jimin. I think Jimin Sungmin is a likely matchup that we're going to get. But more than anything else, I want to see Jimin race in the King of the Hill format, because this is the guy who went from preseason 1, the item ace, for Liiv SANDBOX, to basically being a perennial solos finalist here in KDL as an individual racer. And once they had a bit of a restructuring when one of their players left for military service and they brought in Byung-Soo, formerly known as Speed, Jimin went from that item ace role into a hybrid role. And since then, he has been one of their best speed racers, not just in the individual races representing LSB, but also the team speed matches. So
yeah, especially today, too.
Yeah, I mean, it feels really odd seeing Jimin, you know, if he talked to me back in KDL preseason 1, and you're like, State, Jimin is going to be like the best racer in phase 1 of the first finals for the KDL against the Kwangdong Freaks, I would have thought you were crazy.
Well,
he's got an ace. He doesn't play in speed, but he's been dominating today.
Well, he and Byung-Soo were the new players to come through to replace the players who had to go to the military, right? In-Soo played in preseason 1, but then, of course, he had to leave. Wasn't in preseason 2. But in this first finals, you know, it's he and Byung-Soo who are really stepping it up and getting those great starts, because the starts have been theirs, really, in what we've seen in speed mode. The growth of Jimin's career over such a short period of time is insane. He's still obviously very young and very talented, so he is definitely a player I think that everyone should have their eyes on right now, because he's doing everything at an extremely high level. And if you watch him just isolated without knowing the other context, you might be like, oh, he must be the specialist for great starts. I mean, not really, actually.
No.
Is he a specialist for item ace? He was, but he still has that skill set. Is he really good at solos? Actually, yes, he is really good at solos as well.
He was, I think, the only item ace, if memory serves, that made it into the top 8 for the solos.
So we are going to take a break, guys. When we come back, phase 2.
Check if my name in your mouth, better add the respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off in my brain and I'm bad to the bone.
The stage is set. It is time to begin phase 2. A packed audience here tonight in our arena. It is very tense in the audience, as you could see in those camera shots. A lot of people really surprised by the initial result here. Liiv SANDBOX leading 1-0, but it could all change as we move into the second phase.
Yeah, especially considering how close it was, both in speed mode and in item mode. Both going to track number 5, 3-2 wins for LSB in both speed and item. But now coming into phase 2, Kwangdong Freeks, they've had that break. They've been able to reset. It's maybe about 15 minutes between the end of phase 1 and when the matches actually start again in phase number 2. I know they have a fantastic coaching staff who's probably talking them through, calming them down like, guys, it's okay. You won KDL preseason 1, you won KDL preseason 2. You've dropped a phase to LSB in the past. You can still do this. So I'm expecting them to come in here with a bit of a reset mentally. And I would not be surprised if we did end up going to that King of the Hill. But at the same time, Wolf, Liiv SANDBOX has been playing so well.
And I really think the momentum is going to be the critical part of this in terms of how the speed mode starts off, because we end with Terracotta and Glacier Extreme Stadium, but if you've got the edge mentally, you have the numbers advantage in terms of leading going into those final tracks, you're going to feel great. Now, Liiv SANDBOX did have 3 of the 5 track selection here for this one, our second one here in phase 2. Construction, Chaos, and Terracotta Twister were the choices here of Kwangdong Freeks, but a bit of a curveball here in Miami Drive coming through for Liiv SANDBOX, a great track for Neil. And then Bayside Bridge Run is a track that Kwangdong has struggled on against Liiv SANDBOX historically. They banned it in phase 1, but this time with track selection priority, Liiv SANDBOX gets to pick before that first ban, so they got away with it. So feels like there's an edge here already for Liiv SANDBOX, but the driving is going to have to back it up again. And so far, in our first phase, it was really impressive what we saw. We'll see if they can carry that forward here, or if Kwangdong Freeks are now in the zone.
Yeah, I feel like this draft, more so than the previous draft, really favors the teams that picked their track, as we're getting ready to start phase 2 here between Kwangdong Freeks and Liiv SANDBOX on Village Bayside Bridge Run. Let's kick off speed mode now.
We begin phase 2 here now between Kwangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX, and the start here is a little bit rocky for Neil, but again, Byung-Soo and Jimin, they just do it every single track. They're in top 2, but they're outnumbered this time around with Neil dropping back here, and Kwangdong Freaks has a lot of midfield control.
I'm actually surprised to see Cool right back in the top 3, top 4 here for KDF, because his jump out of the gate, once this track started, he went to try and basically sweep everybody from LSB right from the get-go. It's a big reason why Neil is all the way back down there into the 6th rank, but at the end of the day, Byung-Soo and Hyun-Soo, the Soo duos, holding on to the top 2 positions here.
Yeah, we'll see if Jimin and Neil can come up and try to provide some assistance, because the gap is not wide here, and Spear is already cutting through. Sungbin also hot on their heels, and Kwangdong Freaks, all they really need is someone to get top 3, and that's going to be locked up here. Sungbin actually will botch the turn there with a collision, and this really hurts the momentum here for Kwangdong Freaks, but it's still a neck-and-neck race.
Yeah, and Hyun-Soo's been doing such a good job for Liiv SANDBOX of slowing down Cool and Spear. Now, the blocking hasn't been perfect, but it's been enough to buy time. Moves like this, just slowing down Spear every chance he gets, allows Jimin to come in on the inside, and now Jimin can do a little bit of sweeping on his own. LSB, it looks like 1-2 might be the win condition here. Spear on the outside going to try and find the angle, but even on this straightaway with drafts, KDF still in 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah, this is not looking great here. Spear going to try to push his way through. Cool coming in as well. The timing of this is good right before these tighter turns, trying to push their way forward. Now they have the advantage here. Kwangdong Freaks.
Wow. Man, the momentum shifts in just a moment there as Hyun-Soo's going to try and go on the upper level. Will he be able to break up the 1-2 here for KDF? No! He gets zoned out by Spear, the sweeper coming through, and it looked so good for Liiv SANDBOX up until those final moments, but Cool and Spear able to come through with some clutch drafts, weave through the net of LSB, and on the final 200 meters, they were able to take the top 2 positions.
And when you have midfield control like that, you can actually you can afford to use your Nitro on a straightaway to get an advantage. You will then be behind in Nitro for some of those turns, and you won't be able to necessarily take the tightest of lines, but you will be then in position to block and actually try to stop them from taking those lines and make their Nitros less efficient. And so it was a risky call to actually go for that on the straightaway, and very rare to actually see on Bayside Bridge Run, but they pulled it off. They made it happen, and we're seeing a lot of really great decisions from both these teams, risky decisions and not the standard play you'd see in order to take the tightest and the best line, but they pull it off. They take this first track. They've got the momentum this time as we move into phase 2. As we move into the 2nd track now, Desert Construction Chaos, we'll see if Liiv SANDBOX can tie it up.
Phase 2 speed mode continuing on here on Construction Chaos, as all eyes are going to be on the sweeping of Spear. Should he be able to get past a couple of these Liiv SANDBOX players and start to throw a wrench into their machine, be a real problem, especially with Kwangdong Freaks, Cool, and Sungbin fighting for that top 2.
So really outnumbered here, unfortunately, but the midfield is under his team's control. And he is actually trying to catch on to Cool here and take that first place spot so the rest of his team can break through. As Cool with a really nice block. These are some of the toughest places to block on these 90-degree turns, and Cool is just not messing it up.
Yeah, Sungbin went for a big play there, did ricochet off the wall just a little, but had the boost to recover quite rapidly as Byung-Soo continues to try and pass. It is really hard to pass on these 90-degree turns for exactly that reason. You can basically get brake checked and get thrown into walls, and while Byung-Soo did fall behind, the cavalry is coming in here for LSB. Neil and Hyun-Soo hot on the tail as we finish up lap number 1, but can they close the distance on a Cool and Sungbin that are starting to get further away?
It's a really similar situation what we had on this track in phase 1, where it's like, okay, it's Cool and Sungbin, you guys mess it up and you lose the track because the rest of your team does not have midfield control. Byung-Soo is actually challenging them very early here, even before we get to those 90-degree turns. And Cool, let's see if he can hold on to this Neil close behind. He's been a little bit absent in speed mode here as well. Byung-Soo knocked into that wall there, losing a ton of momentum. See what Neil can get done here as we move into those turns we were talking about just moments before.
Yeah, and the fact that LSB wasn't able to pass Sungbin and Cool heading up into these turns makes this a little bit more difficult. I think Neil, he needs to fight for position 1 here against his rival Cool if LSB wants to come through with a win. Now Neil, he's looking for the outer line. He's not threatening those inners, playing this very safe. He does have 1 blue nitro in the bag, but that safety it's not rewarded. Instead, it's Sungmin who's taking the second place position. Now Neil is going to have to try and break this up, but there's only 300 meters left to go.
Let's see how tight he can take this. Not tight enough. 1-2 for KWANGDONG FREECS will be the decider. And man, it looked good for Liiv SANDBOX in phase 1. Very dominant performance as they took that first track. The second track as well made it close. But this time around in phase 2, it's more of what we expected. KWANGDONG FREECS just dominating track after track and recovering very well early on to get top 2, knowing that win condition and just never letting it go. Really nice handling of those 90-degree turns and even playing it slower and safer there in the end. And Cool and Sungmin will put KWANGDONG FREECS onto speed match point. 1 win to go to bring themselves up 1-0 in phase 2.
Cool is in first place so long that track, he only drafted once. It's just absolutely unbelievable play as him and Sungmin were impenetrable in the top 2. There were some moments where LSB was able to eke an advantage into second place just for a fraction of a second, but they fought back relentlessly, and now it is match point here for speed mode in phase number 2. KDF, can they keep the momentum rolling? Let's move on to track number 3, World Tour Miami Drive.
Off we go on track 3 here. This is the curveball pick of Liiv SANDBOX they had in the track selection here. Let's see if it pays off, because if it doesn't, we're moving straight to item.
Yeah, Cool and World off to a fantastic start here for KDF as Jimin and Hyunsu are going to try their best to close the distance. Now, this track is a field track. It's a lot more wide. There are a lot of different opportunities for turns that you can make. Try and come through with passes. It's a lot harder to block as a result of that, as you see Jimin taking advantage of that exactly. And able to eke in on the inner line there against Cool, work his way up into second place. Midfield really strong here for LSB.
Yeah, Sungmin trying to break that up as you mention it, but actually gets denied here. Trying to find any line he can, and Byungsu also knocked back here. And I feel like Liiv SANDBOX slowly losing control. Hyunsu remained in control of third place, with the rest of the team falling back quite significantly on this first lap here. See what Spear can get done in fourth. The setup here, 1 and 2, is once again Liiv SANDBOX's only hope. Spear in such a good spot to actually sweep everybody else out.
Maybe they can make something like a 1-3-5 happen, but we'll have to see as we go through these turns again. World's going to go for all these boosts as he's going to try his best to pass Hyunsu, but Hyunsu with a really nice line there in the front is holding on to that first place. Now Jimin, if he can cause some disruption here against Spear and World, that's going to lock down the victory here for LSB as Byungsu goes for a bit of sweeping of his own.
Byungsu looking fantastic here. World will pass him though. Spear trying to take that inner off the draft. Won't get through. Liiv SANDBOX in really good spot here as Neil also breaks in now. We're on the final lap right now, and the gap here for Hyunsu is just so massive. He's not even in the conversation. He's basically guaranteed first no matter what. World, he says maybe not, but the distance here is just massive. They need to control this midfield here. 2-3. 4 Spear, 2-3-4, 2-3-5, that's what they need.
Oh no, Jimin falls behind though, and the first place for Hyunsu might not even matter as a 2-3-4 finish could seal the deal here. Jimin, he has to make a play. Byungsu, they have to make a play, but they're not able to do it in the final stretch. And KWANGDONG FREECS, although they relinquish position number 1 against Hyunsu, have such a strong midfield that they're able to carry it through. Not even a 2-3-4, but a 2-3-4-5.
I don't know what the coach said to this team between phase 1 and phase 2, but they are playing much better. Seeing the return of the form we saw from them every time these teams have faced off. And yes, Hyunsu does win it by half a second, but the rest of his teammates, unfortunately, were knocked out in the midfield there, Jimin falling back, and there was just no way they were going to get through there. And KWANGDONG FREECS will 3-0 speed. If they can take item here, they can guarantee that we are going to that third and final phase. Neil feeling the pressure as he will once again be subbed out here for Dalda as we move into item mode. He's done all he can. I think he had a better performance individually actually in phase 2 than he did in phase 1. But the rest of the team just couldn't find that same start that they had then.
Yeah, I feel like it's not even Liiv SANDBOX underperforming here in phase 2. It's just KDF absolutely stepping up when the pressure is at its peak. As we look here at the item track list, and in kind of the similar story to phase number 1, you know, KDF previously, they were not able to get the advantage in the draft because they took speed, but Here coming into item mode. Now they actually have a chance. 1, 3, 5 will be the picks for them as we're going to go to both the Graveyard tracks to start it out. Cemetery Circuit to Dark Castle. And then World Tour London Night, Mine, Magma Cavern, and San Francisco Seaplane Base. Should we go to tracks 4 and 5? And although the Graveyard tracks are really scary here for KDF, although I know they picked it as track number 1, I really advantage LSB on those tracks.
It's interesting too, yeah, because London Night, one that I think that KWANGDONG are great at normally, but maybe not tonight. We'll see. Momentum has shifted though already here in this second phase. We'll see if KWANGDONG can keep pushing it forward as we move into our first track of item, Graveyard Cemetery Circuit.
Kick off item mode now here in phase 2. KWANGDONG FREECS, if they're able to win this best of 5 an item, will send us to that King of the Hill format. Liiv SANDBOX are fighting to try and force an ace match here to keep the 2-0 win.
Big water bomb there off the first item block in the choke point. G-Man also going to eat a rocket here, and World is once again trying to push the advantage. We've seen this basically every single time. It's the same playbook here from KDF. World tries to get ahead, stack shields, they use magnets early, try to get a tempo advantage. This is one of the best tracks for that playstyle. And he is getting a big edge here, but the rest of his team isn't enough to back him up just yet. Now Sungmin moving into second. He's got a big banana. See if he tosses it out here. This choke could be massive.
Yeah, Jimin now coming in, but Jimin, Hyunsu, and Byungsu actually with no items to be found as they're a little bit poor in terms of inventory, but having at least this advantage in placement is nice for them as those Water Wisps do connect. Jimin still in first place, 1 shield, 1 banana. He will get UFO'd, and that Water Wisp as well, so
that was really awkward for
too.
Yeah, that was really awkward for KWANGDONG FREECS, committing the magnet but then getting caught there, so it slowed it down. Then the Angel to try to protect the magnet was too late, so it was wasted.
How often do you see somebody get UFO'd and then Thunderbolted, and I think also with a Water Wisp, it still hold on to pole position? Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely insane there for Liiv SANDBOX. Is finally cool to be able to take the first position here in lap number 2.
The resource efficiency just has not been great here for KWANGDONG FREECS, and 2 shields for Cool again, but he's outnumbered in the front. When we talk about being outnumbered, it means so much in item mode because it means there's no bodies to actually absorb rockets for you, absorb wisps for you. And so it's really hard to hold on even with 2 shields. Eventually, they're just going to run out, as they have now.
And about a second behind Cool as Hyunsu's trying to close the distance. More attacks coming through. As look at that mini-map. Cool, he's got a pretty sizable lead up there with Hyunsu. Actually, no, Hyunsu is so far ahead. I didn't even see that little blue dot. He's actually barely up there with Cool. It's really close in first and second place.
Yeah, a lot of jockeying for position actually happened off screen there, and it looked like KWANGDONG FREECS actually did get midfield control here, and this allows Cool to have that numbers advantage I was talking about. If World gets up here to challenge with Hyunsu, he's going to be in trouble. Let's see if he can grab 2. No, he gets denied actually, and only gets a rocket here. No shields for Hyunsu, no nitro either. Dalda trying to push his way forward here.
But some attacks come in on Cool. He spins out, UFO abducts him as well, and Hyunsu's going to be able to ride this shield all the way to the finish line as there wasn't a lot of inventory to be found, but his teammates backing him up there with the attacks on the lead racer for the FREECS, and Liiv SANDBOX are the first team, on the board here in item mode in phase 2. Leading this best of 5 now, 1-0.
It looked really hopeless, but that final item box set for Liiv SANDBOX, they just tossed him in, and Talda's laughing because he knows he wasn't really in range with that magnet to actually make it happen on his own. He wasn't going to be the one to find that timing. It looked doomed, it looked hopeless, but all those attacks coming through, as you mentioned and pointed out very astutely there, ended up being how Liiv SANDBOX were able to pass in the end and keep the chances alive here. So good turnaround right here, right now. Liiv SANDBOX, they need this if they want to close this one out 2-0.
Yeah, I'm liking this start here for Liiv SANDBOX after getting, frankly, dominated in speed mode here in phase 2 with a clean 3-0 sweep. Take the first track here in item mode. This is their win condition. Win an item, force the ace, and go home early as a champion. Let's see if they can keep the momentum going. Graveyard Dark Castle.
Dark Castle is our second track here, another 3-lap track. Let's see if things change here a second time around. The barricade actually going to hit Hyunsu there.
That was Dalda's barricade too. A little bit of friendly fire. as Jimin will spin out, but is able to pick up 2 items for his trouble, both a shield and an EMP. And as we continue on here on this a bit longer track, this 3-lap track, Dalda is starting to play with a little bit of tempo right now, man.
Yeah, he really does have that extra tempo. He's holding on to 2 shields here. World gets caught, and that means Dalda is not really in range of actually getting hit by. He picks up a second shield here. Probably would have at this point wished for an EMP because he's so far ahead here.
And nobody on KDF has a single shield right now,
Nope.
so all these attacks coming in on World is going to give even more room for Dalda. I think we just saw it for a moment there, about 3.25 seconds.
Yeah.
Is the lead here for Dalda, is even more attacks come in. Now Dalda, he did get slowed down by a number of attacks, so World is eventually going to be able to take that first place position, but all those items get used for KDF, and that means LSB can strike back with a vengeance.
Yeah, they have a really nice war chest here. Spear caught by this one. World drops a shield out. Dalda can absorb some pressure. Now, it's massive they got that UFO here that's going to slow Byung-Soo down, but Hyun-Soo just swaps with him here using a Nitro. And now, you know, I mean, Sungbin is up here, but he has no defensive items. He only has attacking items. How much use is he really going to get out of that?
Yeah, and as a result, LSB taking the first, second, and third place positions here in lap number 2. And as a result, I mean, having all these bodies in the front means that you can kind of share the aggro among your teammates. And cool, oh no, he picks up double banana. He will be able to spin out Dalda with one of them, but that's not the item set he wanted there in first place.
Okay, shield and EMP here, but he runs out now. He's outnumbered, and he's just getting hit by everything. Even the barricade's going to stop him. Byung-Soo gets up in the front, hit by that UFO. Dalda has an Angel here and a Magnet. He's really well set up. UFO swap.
Oh man, that's a really smart play by him to swap out that Magnet and get the EMP. Dalda will be able to copy that now. Avoid getting UFO'd with the Angel Shield. There's so much defensive capability here for Liiv Sandbox, so they have the tempo advantage by a lot. Dalda's just going to bust that Angel Shield. He still has another shield to be found, and he's going to spin his way into the finish line. And man, textbook Graveyard Dark Castle there for Team Liiv Sandbox. Dalda early on had so much tempo advantage, and behind it, he absorbed a ton of aggro from the KWANGDONG FREECS. They spent so many items trying to slow him down that once they finally were able to work their way into, say, the first place position and the second place position, Liiv Sandbox suddenly had such a deep repertoire of items that they could use to fight back there. And from lap number 2 onwards, they were in complete control.
Yeah. And again, it's just item efficiency isn't there for KWANGDONG FREECS. So Liiv Sandbox really have a clear grasp on how they want to hit these timings, and the communication between Jimin, Dalda, and the rest of the squad is definitely something I don't feel that we're seeing here from KWANGDONG FREECS. It feels like more of a winging it exercise, see what they get, and try to blast it out early. And there's not a lot of timings that we're seeing here. Now, going into this third track, if Liiv Sandbox wins this third of item, we go straight to an ace match, and it could be the end of the road here. KWANGDONG FREECS won the last 2 tournament finals here for Team League, but maybe this time, the third time of asking here, Liiv Sandbox can get it done. And Liiv Sandbox as well here, clearly showing they are the stronger item team. That weakness we talked about earlier, really showing through.
All right, let's see if Liiv Sandbox can close out item mode with a sweep. Track number 3, World Tour London Night. London Night in phase 1, a very close track between the FREECS and Liiv Sandbox, but LSB here in item mode right now, after frankly getting dumpstered in speed to kick off phase 2, are playing out of their minds. The shot calling has been impeccable, the item usage has been so efficient, and right now I feel like it's their game to lose.
Yeah. And right now you see it's a pretty close race here on London Night, and this is very common because you don't usually look for aggressive tempo advantages. Jimin, the only player who's tried to do that here, he's since moved on from that strategy. Sungbin here does have a magnet, not going to be too useful right now, but I think holding on to that could be critical. He decides not to, though. It's a 3-lap track, it's lap 1, wants to get some more utility, build that edge, but that's one magnet they may not have for the finish, and that could come back to bite them. A lightning actually here for Hyun-Soo. I feel like holding that is definitely the option you want on this track.
Yeah, it depends on when KWANGDONG FREECS decide to use their Angel Shields. They actually have 2 in the bank right now, so should they save those for the Thunderbolt, it would be a very efficient usage. If that Thunderbolt gets popped, it will get dispelled there. All 4 Thunderbolts completely nullified by that Angel Shield, but that's a lot of defensive utility gone now for the FREECS.
Yeah, using it on that drawbridge can actually really hurt, so they had to Angel Shield that, and I think the timing there very nice for Liiv Sandbox to get the draw out that Angel as well in this second lap. Now, In terms of finishing items here, Dalda has a magnet. Byung-Soo has 2 magnets. Spear at the back, 2 magnets as well. So there's a lot of different players here who actually can be that runner to go for the finish line. And I think getting attacking items set up here for Kwangdong FREECS if they want to control the front line here is exactly what they need. World, let's see what he picks up here. EMP and a shield, not going to be very effective against a multi-man magnet attack.
Yeah, Byung-Soo and Dalda both holding on to the magnet and the nitrous, so they're going to be the players that are trying to make the play. As World, he is going to pop that EMP for just a moment there, picks up another one, and let's go. 500 meters to the finish line. Byung-Soo, he's trying to get it. He gets spun down. Oh, and Thunderbolt gets picked up there. That's a lot of damage coming into KDF, but World, he just has enough momentum. And no! Byung-Soo with a last minute magnet.
The last possible second.
Wow.
What a turn of events. The Thunderbolt as well made it look like there was no choice, there was no hope for Kwangdong FREECS, so they still got him into pole position, but that final magnet just pulls him back and pulls us to an ace match here in phase 2. 3-0 in speed, Kwangdong FREECS dominate. 3-0 in item, and Liiv SANDBOX bring it back. That's a 3-for-3 here in this second phase, and it feels fitting to decide it on a 7th track in the ace match, our first of the grand finals here of our inaugural season. The question now becomes, who is coming out? You've got to feel like it's either Neil or Byung-Soo. Neil has been trusted so many times in these ace matches, but he has come up short against World several times. We'll see what that track is going to be if we continue that trend we talked about earlier.
Right.
And World has been the kryptonite of Neil, but Cool also recently beat Neil in the solo finals. I feel like Kwangdong FREECS have so many options here. Now, Liiv SANDBOX aside, do you want to throw a curveball and put Byung-Soo out? Do you want to stick with Neil and trust him to see if he can bring you that finals? Because if they win this now, it is over, and Liiv SANDBOX is going to lift the trophy.
I think it's going to be World here as the pick for the FREECS. The question right now is who on Liiv SANDBOX can take him down? He has been, as you said, their kryptonite. He's defeated them pretty much every turn. In fact, his overall ace match history, he's 7-1. He's a 90% win rate fella coming into the ace. He thrives in these 1v1 situations, and he's been able to dispatch a variety of different players from LSB. And with everything on the line here for the FREECS, I'm assuming it's going to have to be World, and the coach delivering.
He just said it. He just put it in. He whispered it.
He whispered it. I'm sure. I would be shocked to see anybody else coming in. But there's a big discussion now coming in for Liiv SANDBOX. I wouldn't be surprised if they waited until the last possible moment to decide who is going to come out, as this is a really intense discussion. And it's not just about who's the best racer on this team. It's about who's feeling the best today, who feels like they have the best chance of actually taking down World if they go for that predicted pick.
Can you imagine
Kwangdong FREECS?
Just Jimin shows up, he takes him out here. I mean, what a story it would be. What a growth in his career. I'm feeling it's either Byung-Soo or Neil. They're not giving us any hints here. Impossible to know. But first, of course, now that the time is up, the selection has been made. We're going to take a look at the track selection first. It is, of course, random here to see where we are racing. A lot of crazy ones. We've had some insane races in the past year. And oh, it's going to be WKC Brazil circuit. Wow. It is hard to hold a lead on this track. Early advantages mean nothing. It's really about holding on to that momentum and closing out the track, especially with the 2 possible ways that you can actually end this track with a split end. There is so much decision-making that goes into this one, and we'll see who the racers are going to be.
Man, I can't wait to find out who it's going to be from Kwangdong FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX, and it's going to be World versus Jimin! Oh my goodness, the former item ace turned hybrid player who has excelled in solos is going to heed the call to arms from the invincible fleet here in the ace match. If he wins this one, they're going to be the champions.
And
man, what a matchup.
And I cannot believe that Neil has the humility to step aside and say, this guy, World, I know they're going to pick him. He's beaten me 3 times in these critical matches. It's your turn now, Jimin, to try to bring me a title. He's willing to step aside. He failed in that final match against Cool. And now, as we move into WKC Brazil circuit, if Jimin can do it, change his career from item ace to the ace player here, maybe Liiv SANDBOX will lift a trophy.
It all comes down to this. World versus Jimin, Freaks versus Liiv SANDBOX. If Jimin is able to deliver a win, and he is off to a great start, LSB are being crowned the first champions of the KDL. KDF World, he is fighting for the chance to force that all-kill format ace.
Jimin, fantastic on this track as well. He's picked up several podium finishes in solos here, and he's now passed by World, but holding on to leads. Again, we mentioned this earlier, is so difficult on this track because there's so many lines you could take. You can nitro through the grass. You can find several different ways to pass on draft because it's a wide open track, and even the final moment is not secure because there's 2 paths to the finish line, and whatever line you take, you have to hold it fast and make sure that you get that cross finish line because the draft can actually change everything in a second. We are jockeying for position here, back and forth right now. Jimin having a slight nitro advantage.
Yeah, I love that block coming in there from Jimin, able to slow down World for just a moment. And on this straightaway, he should be able to draft and close the distance, if not pass World here on the outside. Just a fraction of a second separating these players right now. And Jimin, although he is in the second rank, that is not really much of a problem here as long as he's able to keep his nitro gauge and stay close, because this is one of those tracks where coming down that final stretch, if you are in draft range, if you're as close as Jimin is right now, it's very easy to pass as he's able to take the lead.
Let's see what World wants to do here. It almost looks like he allowed Jimin to pass there so he could get a better draft here where it matters more. And now he's actually gotten the lead. Again, Jimin, extra nitro here. We'll see if it ends up mattering as we get closer and closer to the final stretch. World trying to pull away here, goes to the grass, takes the tightest possible inner, and Jimin trying to draft past, finds the angle.
Man, going for the inner angle there off the draft, and he has a slight nitro lead as well as we get closer and closer to the finish line. 500 meters left to go. Jimin, can he hold on to the lead? Can he block World to deliver a championship for Liiv SANDBOX?
World going through, he passes him, and no, Liiv SANDBOX will not lift the trophy yet. And we are going to the king of the hill, and Africa here, KWANGDONG Freaks, they are going to defend themselves here and bring us to that final one. And Jimin, he had it so tight, he was so ahead, but World knew the finish line there, how to take it, take that extra nitro and pass him. And oh, what a tense race it was. And KWANGDONG Freaks stay alive here. Very intense. Look at the time here, just 0.1 second between the two of them, and look at the embrace here as well as Sungmin comes over as World does it again against Liiv SANDBOX.
I mean, he just continues to add to this incredible history of ace match victories. He feels almost unstoppable in 1v1s. He is, frankly, one of the best ace match players in the world. I'm getting memories of KDL preseason 1 and preseason 2. We saw moments of glory from a variety of different players on a variety of different teams coming through in ace matches in the clutch when they were needed most, but World here on the biggest stage, if he loses that, they surrender the championship, but he's able to deliver the win. And now the KWANGDONG Freaks have picked up Phase 2 victory. We are going to the all-kill format.
Insane, insane. And how well Jimin raced, how much he's progressed in his career. That line he took to actually take the lead was a thing of art. And, you know, it ultimately didn't matter because World caught him there in the end with a nice draft in that final nitro. But this series has just really delivered. It's just like preseason 2, back and forth. We're going to this. We'll see if we go the distance all the way down to the final track, the 7th track of this 3rd phase. We may, but going to the all-kill format here, there's a lot of strategy to discuss because who you pick first can give you a lot of momentum. But if you lose your ace racer early on, that means they won't be able to race a second time. Every racer has 1 life here. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, it will be that deciding Phase 3. We'll see you then.
passes right there on Hojin for the rear ranks of Liiv SANDBOX as Yunsu with his outer line going to try and turn that into an inner here coming through on Knock. Will he actually be able to pass Condition for LSB if they can lock it down? But it's so close.
You can see Knock is so fixated on trying to...
That all comes down to Knock blocking Yunsu with Yunsu. It's so hard to win this 1v2.
Oh my.
And finally, LSB, they are able to pass it.
The
300 meters left to go into the finish line, but Hojin here on the outer does a flawless play. Is able to go through, and that's MSJ with a 1-2 finish again. Hojin on the right side, Knock on the left side, and while it was looking really good for LSB in the...
out, stops Hojin, and I feel like a lot of the game plan was built around Hojin in the beginning, so now Knock and guard, they need to step up.
What a sick play there by Hero. Oh my goodness, he gets two players.
Min has a Magnet right now. He's got the Magnet Rush combo, so he can use that. He's saving it right now. The Water Bomb came out, the Water Wisp as well, and Hero gets caught out by that Water Bomb.
Hero gets caught by the Water Bomb, and Dalton comes in, on the outside, and Liiv SANDBOX repeat their history. It feels like every single KDL season, it is destiny for them to make their way to the finals, and this time they're gonna hope they can beat the FREECS, but I gotta say, man, Midi and Sejong, they played very...
His finish of tonight, and I'm really surprised by his choice of Terracotta Twister. I feel like that speaks so much volume in his confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I did good recovery there as we enter the tubes, and Sungmin tries to push Cool out of the races, but Cool is able to stabilize.
Oh my god!
And he absolutely demolishes Hojin on that defense, and more racers as well. How does he... Looting not even seen here on the mini-map, so they are pretty much out of the races, we have to imagine. Now Neil still finding an opportunity. Good grab. He finds the opportunity. Oh, good spin turn for recovery though, and in fact blocks off Knock. Is able to maintain his distance to get right back into first place once again. Can Hero cut him off? He's able to shove him out, but Neil says thank you very much for the scuffles, and Neil will be crossing the finish line first.
Man, that is third 10 points for Neil in the back for him tonight. I feel like Neil's form is absolutely in.
Any of the other racers want to see with both of them at 63-64. I mean, if either of them get first place, you can pretty much assume that we are going to wrap things up in the next track, as both of them have always been in contention.
Oh my, Neil!
No! Neil, he fails his own Neil build and falls into the River of Doom, as he now loses all that speed, all time, just a bit more in the standings in the future tracks. KDL only 300 meters left. Cool, enough distance. No one able to catch up with that draft, and he will be Hero. Now all that dream has just been dashed. Cool, he should be able to at least get second place, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, the first set is...
Hero Neil at that round 2, the set 2 of the solo finals, and Neil, he definitely wants to turn things...
Trying to play it passively. We'll have to see where Neil takes us in round 3 to try to get the lead back.
This is going to be Neil's first track selection, so this management. So Neil off to just the best start he could ask for here. Cool is in so much pressure to catch up right now.
Yeah, and Cool, he tried to take he's closing the distance just barely, but still out of draft range.
That's how good Neil is. He's not giving up any distance for Cool to try to catch up. But somehow, Cool, he's able to cut across in such ways that he's now all the way up in first. How does Cool do it, Will?
Neil was not suspecting that, but you have to imagine, it's the buildup, right? Cool cuts closer on every single shortcut throughout lap.
He's really being forced right now, bring out all his strategies here as he maneuvers to get close enough to Cool, but not enough for a draft as it seems. Cool, he may be able to just hold on to this lead.
Cool just had such awareness. He knows that it's going to be the exact same position that Neil has an opportunity to get the draft. So what does he do? He actually takes a bit of an... narrow sections here of Boom Hill Tunnel. One collision, and both of them could lose so much control. Neil just trying to go for these passive blocks, but he goes a little bit over aggressive. Is able to recover right
ahead.
Yeah, here comes that jump. Now Cool not gonna have the draft and boost combo to be able to jump the entire railing. He will just have to go for the same build, but Neil, the stop is not enough. Cool actually gets the draft right on time off of that block, and now he has the advantage. He has the better top speed as well.
Neil
going for the straight boost, but it's not gonna slow Cool down enough. I don't think he has an opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are only 100 meters away from crowning Cool as our very first champion of the Kart Rider Drift League.
Man, what a beautiful season that Cool has had all year long, and to round it off with a champion title for himself when it matters most. In pre-season 2, it was such a disappointing time for him, but now he can forget about all of that.
in your mouth, better add the respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is to throw. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone, throw it off in my brain and I'm back to the bone.
We will have our first team champions of the Kartrider Drift League decided in this third and final phase between Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS. It is a King of the Hill all-kill format 1v1 battle, and right now, I mean, it's hard to say really who has the stronger momentum. KWANGDONG FREECS kept their chances alive with a win in the ace match, but Liiv SANDBOX have otherwise had a lot of great moments themselves. They're racing out of their minds tonight, State.
Yeah, Liiv SANDBOX has really been performing, but the ace matches, KWANGDONG FREECS having whirled up their sleeves, is such a dangerous proposition here for LSB to try and take him down as the first track coming in. It's going to be WKC Mexico Touring Rally.
So two tracks back-to-back, these WKC tracks, where there's a lot to break down in terms of how many different angles you could take. These newer tracks have so many different lines, and it's very difficult to actually defend your first place. And even drafting can be such a danger that holding first place can be a disadvantage, as we saw in that previous ace match. Our starters, Spear versus Jimin here.
All right, so it makes a lot of sense to me to bring Jimin back. I'm actually surprised that KWANGDONG FREECS didn't bring World back as well, because I think you just kind of want to ride the momentum. You know, you just played an ace match. Yes, you lost, but you're ready. It's like a warm-up here for phase number 3. And so I really like the choice coming in from Liiv SANDBOX to bring Jimin out once more here. And for KWANGDONG FREECS, it's going to be Spear. He's a legendary sweeper, but can he step up here in the 1v1 as we're about to kick off phase 3, best of 7 ace match, non-stop action. Let's go to round 1, WKC Mexico Touring Rally.
Our phase 3 begins here with Spear and Jimin. Spear, definitely not your closer here for KWANGDONG FREECS, much more known for his team play, but Jimin has improved massively. They chose him as an ace. He's already warmed up, and he's starting things off here for Liiv SANDBOX. So Spear will take the lead. This is a one-lap track. Very difficult to hold on to your lead because there's several different ways you can approach these lines.
Yeah, it's very similar to Brazil Circuit in that way, where a player coming into the final 300 meters in first place doesn't necessarily guarantee the win, because there are opportunities to draft and go for some really tight lines, as Jimin getting a lot of speed right here in this section, just staying within draft range from Spear. Neither player really taking too many risks right now, playing this very safe as Jimin went for a pass there, did get blocked a little bit by Spear, and as a result, a tiny bit behind at the nitrous gauge, but still a very close race.
Yeah, Spear known for his sweeping. Tough to sweep here, but he's trying his best. Does get past in this moment here for Jimin, who does have that nitro advantage as well that you just referred to. Let's see which path Jimin wants to take here. Spear will have to follow. He takes the lower ground. Tougher turn here, really dragging Spear behind him, because Spear needs to try to draft off this, so he has to follow. He will once again take the low ground, and Spear taking an opportunity to actually pass. Successful.
Yeah, he's successfully able to pass right now as we get closer and closer to that finish line. Jimin needs to make a play. Now he is able to draft and gain a little bit of speed on that one. 500 meters to go. He collides with Spear, and the blocking actually might be enough. Jimin here on the straightaway, can he barely edge it out? no, I think Spear has done it. That was so unbelievably close.
That was insane how close it was. You could see the flicker from first to second go through in those final moments, those final centimeters. But it is Kwangdong's Racer Spear who will cross the finish line first, almost finding it difficult to believe. But this is a huge hit to Liiv SANDBOX. They've lost one of their strongest aces, one they trusted early. 0.001 seconds. The leader here is Spear. It does not get closer than this, Kart Rider fans.
Yeah, that's as close as it gets. That is as close as it gets.
There's no fourth decimal in our stats. We don't go that far.
That's unbelievable, man. Jimin was so close. If one of those blocks wasn't able to register, if Spear wasn't able to fully block out Jimin there, I mean, it just changes everything completely in that race.
Track selection here, of course, to Liiv SANDBOX, as well as their next racer. We'll find out in just a moment here. They have 30 seconds to decide who will challenge Spear next. Spear looking very nervous, but I think he's already done more than what they bargained for when they put him out early. If he wins the first race, he kills Jimin. Jimin is gone. You can't use him anymore. Spear took him out. Arguably your weakest 1v1 racer as KWANGDONG FREECS, so they have so much momentum right now. Let's find out what that track selection is going to be. Well, we're doing racer selection now as well. Okay, Village Bayside Bridge Run. This feels like a Neil track to me.
I'm with you. We'll have to wait and see what the racer selection is going to be as that timer continues to click down. Liiv SANDBOX certainly discussing amongst themselves and with their coaches about who is going to come. And it seems they might have reached a decision already.
I wouldn't mind to see Byung-Soo or Hyunsu here either. But, you know, if you're saving Neil for the closer, that can put a lot of pressure on him. And we have seen that go both ways. We're going to find out who it's going to be now with the reveal.
Keep in mind, each team only has 4 lives. Liiv SANDBOX has lost one of those lives already to Spear, who's going to stay on and face their next racer.
Hyunsu.
Wow, okay. Hyunsu versus Spear now coming in. This feels like it's going to be a relatively even match. I don't know who has the advantage here.
I mean, Bayside Bridge Run is definitely a track where you can block well, and Spear is very good at that. You know, a lot more narrow, a lot easier to hold on to your lead. So I think the start here is going to be the most critical.
So is Hyunsu, though. He's also mostly known as a sweeper for Liiv SANDBOX. It's sweeper on sweeper action here as we continue on in phase 3 of the KDL Grand Finals. KWANGDONG FREECS versus Liiv SANDBOX. Let's go to track number 2. It's going to be Village Bayside Bridge Run. Spear was able to take down Jimin by a fraction of a second. Can he do the same here against Hyunsu and give his team a 2-0 lead? So far off to a great start. Hyunsu trying to find that inner line to get the advantage, but Spear, as you said, Wolf, so good at blocking, able to slow him down just a bit.
Spear, I think, backfiring a little bit with the aggressive cuts he wanted to take there to build some extra nitro. He actually finds himself falling behind as a result of that. And this is a 2-lap track here. Spear pulls ahead off of that collision. Now tries to pull out of Hyunsu's draft and then block him on the return here while cutting. That was a really aggressive move that could have been extremely efficient, but unfortunately kind of botches the execution, and Hyunsu will maintain first for now.
Yeah, Hyunsu in a really good position now coming in. Still in first place. It can be really tough to pass on these turns as you want to take the tightest possible line. You don't really want to go wide, but as a result, you don't really have a lot of opportunities if your opponent's in a good position. And Spear trying to find that angle. Oh, Hyunsu, he wanted that block so bad, but wasn't able to get it.
Yeah, he tried multiple times there. The collision's definitely favoring Spear, though, again. This time, Hyunsu taking the outer there as Spear aggressively goes in. Hyunsu will find the angle, but doesn't actually get these kisses he's looking for. He wants to knock Spear back. He does remain in first, but doesn't actually get Spear knocked backwards.
That was a little bit of a brake check that did steal some of Spear's momentum, although off the draft, he is able to regain that ground. Both players with full nitro gauges as Spear on this wide track, able to take the lead for now, but Hyunsu, I guarantee you, is going to be looking for that pass again. Can Spear block him?
Looks like he's trying to, as Hyunsu takes this outer here as we move into some of these final turns now. This is going to be so important for momentum. Nitro's out. Spear looking for the pass. Hyunsu denies. He bumps the wall.
Yeah, Hyunsu was barely able to thread the needle between Spear and the wall, and now coming down this turn, Hyunsu with a really good lead, but he comes the wall! No! It's a disaster for Liiv SANDBOX! Sandbox and Spear. He gets a freebie on that one, man. A get out of jail free card.
Absolutely.
And LSB, they are choking Hyunsu with a really rough stretch going down that. Just one last turn and to make it, he gets the win, but instead.
It's so crazy because, as you say, it's a big choke. If you're neck and neck with a racer, that is one of the hardest turns to make because you have to try to avoid collision. They're drafting on you, they're pushing past, and that's a really tough one. But when you have the advantage that Hyunsu has, that's one of the easiest finishes actually in our track pool right now, and he just completely botched it. The pressure is on.
That is a turn that Hyunsu makes 99 times out of 100.
And 999 out of 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, his skill is so high. He's one of the best racers in the world. He's here in the finals for a reason. But the pressure is so high right now that I don't think this is the last mistake we're going to see over the course of this best of 7 of aces.
I don't think so either.
I mean, the pressure is just so high. Think about 60 million Korean won separating first from second place here, and it's all coming down to these last couple of tracks.
And it's insane to me that Spear could be the one who gets the most wins for KWANGDONG here in these final moments. The racer they tossed out just to see what the plan is here for Liiv Sandbox. He wins with a really nice play in the first track. The second track, his opponent makes a mistake. He picks up 2. You can see he's not even celebrating that much because he's just like, well, you know, I guess I'll take these. There's a lot of tough discussions here between Byungsu and Neil. They have 2 racers left here. 10 seconds to go.
I'm feeling like it's Neil.
Yeah, he's got his earbuds coming in. I think it is going to be Neil here on Shanghai Circuit. He's going to have to bring more than just one home. If he loses this one, the last racer, Byungsu, he is going to have to go through every single KWANGDONG FREECS racer to get the reverse sweep, the reverse all kill, and it will be Neil here.
Not a
He's
surprise.
got to get it done here, or Liiv Sandbox is in dire straits.
I think he needs at least 1 kill, arguably 2, to come really even close to putting this one within victory's grasp. But Spear, I gotta say, it felt like he got a little bit outplayed there on Bayside Bridge Run. It was a get out of jail free card. But at the same time, Neil, he's been kind of quiet so far this finals. He hasn't been really the star player that we know that he's capable of being here on the biggest of stages. Let's see if he can step it up now when the pressure is at its highest. Track number 3, WKC Shanghai Circuit.
Off we go. Neil, one of 2 racers left here for Liiv Sandbox. He has felt the pressure on this stage so many times. Heart rate already hitting 175 here. This guy was just on this stage last week in the finals. It's his 3rd finals here in Team League as well. He has been so close to kissing the trophy, but this is the first real finals. This is where it really matters, and he is going to have to get at least 1 kill here. I'd say probably 2 if Liiv Sandbox are going to lift that trophy tonight.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and so far a very close race, but I got to give the advantage here to Neil. He's been very solid taking these turns, taking very different lines from Spear, and as a result, thus far he's been able to maintain the nitro boost gauge. Now finally here, about 40 seconds into lap number 1, Spear is at last taking that first place position, but the nitro gauge once again favoring Neil by almost a full charge.
Neil is holding on to this lead as tight as he can. You could feel him clutch it as Spear here, inexperienced compared to Neil in these high-pressure situations. Neil's been here so many times, and Neil's just calm and collected here, even with that high heart rate. In terms of his racing, he looks cool as a cucumber here. Spear down on nitro for just a moment. See if Neil can avoid these drafts. He's trying to pull ahead on this turn, but Spear actually catching him on this one.
Neil absolutely doing such a great job with these tight lines. I mean, his nitro gauge management has been so perfect coming through this one, but Spear with a really good angle there. Neil luckily able to get that block off, and that's going to siphon a lot of momentum there from Spear as the nitro gauge get even. 400 meters left to go. Spear, can he get the 3rd kill? Neil here on this straightaway looking very good. The draft will come in, but Neil barely by the skin of his teeth is going to pick up a track win and get Liiv Sandbox on the board.
Oh, and he looks determined. He's taken out Spear, but he wants more than that. Such a tight moment there at the end with the draft, and I almost thought for a second with the block attempt there from Neil, he had just lost too much speed, not going as the crow flies, but actually taking the widest possible angle. Lost him a few meters there on Spear. Looked scary, but he holds fast, and once again, we're looking at a very, very close race here, 0.06 seconds the deciding factor here between these two. But now Liiv SANDBOX are on the board. We will see for the first time the track selection for Kwangdong FREECS, as well as their first racer here to come out. As Neil, you could see, I mean, his heart rate peaked at, over 180 there. He is really feeling the pressure, but again, he's been here so many times, and maybe tonight's the night he can calm himself down and cross that finish line for his team.
Desert Construction Chaos is going to be the track of choice.
Feels like I'm feeling cool. Who are you feeling here?
Feeling cool? I'm not sure if you bring cool out just yet, but it's tough to say. I'm thinking potentially Sungbin, but given the map, Construction Chaos,
Cool and World is so good at this track.
Yeah, I think World is your last life. I think you save him until the very end, and we'll see what the choice is going to be, and it is in fact Sungbin.
They baited us with those camera shots. I thought maybe they already knew it was World. That Sungbin who comes out.
The producer's chiming. It's like, we gotta fool the viewers. We gotta keep the suspense high here.
Well, I mean, if you give Neil the opportunity to beat Sungbin here, he gets a lot of momentum. He's gonna be feeling less nervous when he has to go against the final bosses, right, in Cool and World.
That's a good point.
I think this is a risky choice for Kwangdong FREECS. We'll see if it pays off. Neil is one of 2 racers left. Sungbin could cut the chances of Liiv SANDBOX in half with a win here on Desert Construction Chaos.
A 2-1 lead here for Kwangdong FREECS coming into round 4 as Neil looks to fight back and try and keep Liiv SANDBOX's hope of hoisting that trophy alive as Sungbin and Neil thus far off to a really close race.
Neil hanging back here, trying to wait for an opportunistic moment off of draft. Sungbin brake checking him a little bit here, looking for that kiss into the wall. That was a sick play from Sungbin, and that is going to cost Neil a ton of momentum, and he's already struggling here to stay in draft range.
I think this is one of the reasons why Sungbin is such a good selection on this track, is because this is a sweeper's paradise, and Sungbin, I believe more than the runners and the speed aces of KDF, is able to do these brake checks and these blocks, especially on these 90-degree turns. And so Neil, he's got to be very careful if Sungbin goes for them big plays like that one.
That was another great play, but the recovery here from Neil is actually quite nice. A lesser racer loses everything off of that, but Neil actually recovers so beautifully, brakes, and then accelerates right behind. He's still nearly in draft range here of Sungbin.
That's just a lot of damage, and Sungbin only needs 1 or 2 more brake checks like that one to be able to deliver a win, as Neil has a lot of ground to make up here on Sungbin. Almost 0.8 seconds behind him coming into lap number 2.
Great nitro builds there from Neil, using his nitro a little bit early just to get the most possible on these turns as he drafts, or rather drifts through. And he is keeping it tight here with Sungbin. One mistake could change everything, but Sungbin has such a nice edge right now. Neil moving into draft range, but again, we've seen such great blocks from Sungbin on the 90s that don't know if Neil is going to be able to pass here. Sees an opportunity!
Oh, he went for it again, but Sungbin with a bit of a soul read right there. Did not go for the block that Neil was anticipating. He just slowed down, went for that wider line, and Neil, as a result, ricocheted off the wall.
Oh,
and
that
man, he clips
really
the corner.
hurts. I mean, you could see time stop in that moment where Neil shot his shot, but it is not going to be enough,
no.
and now he's cracking under the pressure. And it looks like Sungbin is going to bring his team to match point. There is no way. He's over 100 meters ahead, 400 to go. He can take this line as easy as he likes because Kwangdong FREECS are going to go up 3-1 here. Neil fails in his attempt against Sungbin. And now it is just one track that Kwangdong FREECS need to take their 3rd win here, but the first real win in the KDL.
Yeah, it's Sungbin coming through in the clutch, and I think this is really a win for the coaching staff of the KDF, going for Sungbin on Construction Chaos, because he is so good at brake checking, he's so good at blocking, he's very much akin to Spear in that way, and you just saw Neil absolutely fail to break the wall that was Sungbin on those 90s. Even on the more windy tracks at the beginning, where you're actually able to go for some more passes, Sungbin was still blocking him out, so really keen defensive play from the veteran on Kwangdong FREECS, and now all of the pressure in the world is on Pyeongsu. I don't think there's any way we're going to be seeing Dalda come in. It's the speed ace, absolutely, that will be the choice for Liiv SANDBOX, and he has a gauntlet to run if he wants to deliver a win for his team.
Quietly, I feel like one of the lesser hyped up members here for Liiv SANDBOX all year. coming in to replace Insu, and he's delivered time and time again, but he doesn't have the fan base that Neil has. He doesn't have the hype storyline that Jimin has in terms of item ace to one of the best, most versatile racers. And Byung-Soo has kind of silently been this consistent piece for Liiv Sandbox all year long, and now it has to be he who gets his team that trophy. He's getting himself into the zone here. He will have to beat Sungbin, but then also that dynamic duo of World and Cool if Liiv Sandbox are going to be the first 2023 KDL champions.
Byung-Soo, it looks like his mind is racing right now there on stage. A lot of pressure on him. Can he win 3 tracks in a row and deliver Liiv Sandbox a championship? Or will Sungbin be able to close it out right here, right now on Terracotta Twister? Let's get ready to go into round number 5.
Terracotta Twister is where Sungbin can see the trophy at the checkered flag. All he has to do is cross it first, and his team is going to do it. The back-to-back-to-back of the first champions of KDL.
Ooh, some really nice plays there by Byung-Soo, though, going for the body fight and stealing a lot of the energy from Sungbin. Sungbin here on this straightaway, though, able to get the advantage for the moment. Byung-Soo now in draft range, going for an ambitious hitter, but again, the blocks have been so good from the veteran.
You can see in the heart rate difference here, Byung-Soo is sub 80. He is a calm and collected racer. I think that's why Liiv Sandbox decided to pull him out last. He is not going to choke. He is not going to get nervous. And we'll see if he can hold on to this. Oh, no! Almost so close to putting Sungbin just right into the ditch. But Sungbin will recover.
Yeah, Byung-Soo is absolutely going for these body checks right now on Sungbin. Sungbin with a nice recovery there will keep himself in the race, but right now, lead going to Byung-Soo here as we're getting ready to finish lap number 1.
Yeah, 0.3 seconds ahead, decent distance here. Sungbin going to try to take this really nice inner, actually, and will come close.
Oh, no!
No! Byung-Soo looks for the block, but actually blocks himself. He can recover from this, but it is going to be a long and tough road.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage coming in. Sungbin with a fantastic recovery, and that block was the Achilles heel of Byung-Soo, but there is a path to victory here if he's able to close the distance. Byung-Soo, the speed ace of Liiv Sandbox, is one of the best racers in the world. As you can see, that distance getting closer and closer between him and Sungbin,
but he can attack Sungbin here on this critical moment because he hasn't been able to close the gap enough. Okay, trying his hardest, doesn't mess this up. Ooh, that's not it though, and he can't do anything to Sungbin now, and Sungbin is out of his reach. I think it's pretty much done so.
It might be. He's 80 meters away right now as we go into this straightaway, and Sungbin for KWANGDONG FREECS might be able to deliver their first ever championship here in the KDL. Is hurrying at 188. He knows he's done it, and the KWANGDONG FREECS yet again are the champions over Liiv Sandbox.
KWANGDONG FREECS, preseason 1, preseason 2, but they are the first champions of Kart Rider Drift League here in 2023. A dominant performance. These competitors stay composed in these high pressure situations, and that has been the difference makers in this massive rivalry all year long between KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv Sandbox. When it matters most, they do not choke, they do not fall under the pressure. Even Spear takes 2 wins here in this finals, an unlikely hero, but it's Liiv Sandbox who yet again fall in a finals.
Man, what an unbelievable moment here for KWANGDONG FREECS to get ready to hoist that trophy. A well-deserved victory over Liiv Sandbox, and an incredible moment for a team that is the first ever champion of the KDL.
What incredible performances we saw from a wide variety of players in this roster today, and things looked shaky at the beginning, but they were able to pull it off. And they have started now the first Kart Rider Drift Dynasty. They're the first team to win this title. And to call them Royal Roaders doesn't feel true because they won both preseasons in dominant fashion as well. We're going to have an interview now with these players, our first ever champions of the KDL.
팀전 우승이 처음이네요.
So, this is the first ever.
아, 이거 뭐 풀은 웬만한 거 다 안 줄 알았는데 이 단어 자체가
He said,
이렇게
yes,
약할
a
줄 몰랐어요.
first.
어때요? 이 트로피의 무게는.
How do you feel?
개인전보다 확실히
How heavy is the trophy?
오늘 그 사실 첫 번째 페이지 끝났을 때
This feels heavier than the solo championship trophy.
이렇게 안 되나 또
So after phase one, yeah.
이런 얘기가 지금 나올 만한 상황이었어요. 어땠어요 그때는?
The team championship is the hardest for a team to lift up the trophy. And he said he was a little bit upset with his individual performance today. Even though he's a solo match champion, he was hoping to do better, but his team at the end was still able to lift the trophy.
거기에 대한 그 떨림들은 없었어요?
일단 우리 이렇게 잘하는 친구들, 형들도 있고.
Well,
저도 물론
since I'm surrounded by outstanding teammates with excellent skill,
좀 뭐랄까 물론 저도 나가고 싶었어요.
I didn't have to play at the top of my level or in the King of the Hill matchup, and we were still able to pick up the victory.
자 그러면 스피어도 한번 만나볼까요?
So now we'll talk to Spear.
오늘 2킬 출발했네요.
네?
오늘 출발 좋다고 승자연전 했었을 때.
So your start today was fantastic into King of the Hill.
사실 그동안 스피어 선수가 가지고 있는
I was really worried, but actually it turned out pretty good.
이런 상황에서 상대적으로 덜 등장한다는 거에 대해서
So of course you already know how well you played individually.
마찬가지고 그런 상황의 승자연전의 이 선봉이었는데 부담 안 됐어요?
So didn't you feel a ton of pressure?
제 뒤에 팀원들이 다 너무 잘해서
Because you were the first starting player for King of the Hill.
부담이 덜했던 것 같아요.
첫 번째 페이지 끝나고
So even if I didn't win, I have a ton of great teammates who could cover for me and pick up the slack. So honestly, I wasn't really nervous.
두 번째 페이지 일단 뭐 잡으면서 어쨌든 뭐
But phase one,
이렇게 되고 막 분위기가 막 이랬잖아요. 어땠어요?
Liiv SANDBOX were able to take that. But how did you come together and bring it back in phase two?
나간 것 같았고 이 페이지 때는 좀 잘 입고 그래서 잘 된 것 같아요.
It was pretty tough after losing speed. But we gathered ourselves and we just wanted to focus on the next match ahead. How do you feel now? I don't think this is real. It's hard to feel like this is real.
저번에 우승했을 때
Seems like you've got some mixed emotions.
시즌이기도 하고 그때는 승자전전 때 제가 무기력하게 졌어가지고 좀 미안한 마음도 컸었는데
Well,
그래서 조금 그냥 그런 것 같아요.
when I'm playing King of the Hill in the first season, in preseason 2, I lost I got crushed. I lost helplessly. But this time I feel pretty nice because I was a huge part of this championship. So I'm very happy with that.
자 그러면 월드로 만나봐야죠. 월드. 와 진짜. 모르겠어요. 이게 왜 월드.
So he doesn't want Spear to cry, so he's going to give it over to World now.
뭔가 약간 진짜 미쳤는데 오늘. 아까 그 애결 순간에 두 번째 페이지 때 안 떨렸어요?
In the ace match of phase 2, weren't you nervous?
떨렸는데 당연히.
I was exceptionally nervous. I was really feeling the pressure. He's very emotional. So the fans in the audience are cheering him on right now as he answers the question.
떨렸는데도 그냥 이거 무조건.
He said, I just couldn't give up because I knew we were so close to becoming the first ever champions, and no matter what, I knew I had to win.
얼마나 이 선수가 이렇게 눈물 많은 선수인지를
What an incredible performance from World tonight.
Yeah.
긴장되는 순간 많았습니다.
Well, you always have a smile on your face. You always look so happy, but this is such an emotional moment.
순탄하게 지나간 것처럼 보였습니다만 결승전 그 어느 때보다
This must mean so much to you.
오늘 어떤 순간이 좀 가장 많이 좀 긴장이 됐었나요?
오늘 그냥
So,
애결
at which moment did you feel the most pressure during this match?
해결해줘서 너무 고마웠던 것 같아요. 그냥 동생들한테
Well, the ace match, of course, was an outstanding amount of pressure, and after I was able to pick up the victory, I knew I could rely on my teammates to deliver the win, and they absolutely delivered an excellent performance.
그러면 우리 성민도 만나봐야죠. 가장 궁금한 것부터
A lot of people know why you're feeling emotional, what these cheers mean. So the first ever champions here in the KDL.
엄청 저번 시즌
I want to ask, why didn't you want to play
생각을 했었는데
on Glacier Extreme Stadium?
Yeah.
대회 때
성적이 안 좋았어서 에이스 결정전을 할 때.
Well, I felt really confident on that track.
더 자신 있는 맵을 골랐던 것 같아요, 병마용.
But my win rate never met my confidence in performance, so that factored into the decision. So to become a champion, it wasn't easy. Liiv SANDBOX put up a really challenging fight. How do you feel?
이제 아이템전 2대2 상황이었는데 이제 마지막 판에 저희 팀이 순위가 꽤 괜찮았다고 생각했거든요.
Well, when it was 2-2,
솔직히 아이템이 좀
after we finished in item mode,
시스템이잖아요. 그래서 저희 팀이 뒤에서 먹는 아이템을 좀 기다렸는데
I felt like we needed to be a little bit lucky to win in item mode against Liiv SANDBOX. But things didn't quite go as we were expecting and as we were hoping for, so it was a really tough loss for us. So we're talking specifically about the item match earlier on. As you see, there's so many fans here in the audience. It's an absolutely packed crowd here at the Vita 500 Coliseum. Do you have any words you want to say to your fans here?
불리하게 시작을 했는데 결승전을
First of all,
끝까지 믿고 응원해 주신 분들 감사하고 사실 저희가
we didn't have the best start to this finals. We lost phase number 1, although it was very close.
성적이 안 좋았어요. 그래서 솔직히 저는 제가 너무 잘한다고 생각하는 그런
And in our scrims, we were losing match after match after match, so we weren't feeling especially confident coming in here today.
저도 별거 아닌데 엄청 뭐라 했거든요. 근데 그게 너무 미안하고
So we're all a little bit sensitive and about every individual little thing.
팬분들, 관계자분들 모두한테 올해를 꼭 우승 3번 다 해보겠다고
Before I even joined the team,
약속 오늘 지켰습니다, 여러분.
I promised them we would win every season, and I'm really happy that I kept my promise.
그렇지만 다음부터도 꼭 방심하지 않고 팬분들께서 꼭 저희와 함께 가주신다면 저도 끝까지 방심하지 않고
And even next season,
다음에도 꼭 우승해 보겠습니다.
I'm not going to let down my guard. I'm going to keep focusing, and I'm going to try and deliver another win for my fans. Once
so one
again,
final applause, he says here, for our champions, KWANGDONG FREECS.
And now we're getting ready for the award ceremony here for Team Match of the 2023 Kartrider Drift League. Truly an incredible finals, Wolf, that had us on the edge of our seats from phase 1 all the way to the King of the Hill. Some unexpected heroes.
Insane finals.
Some big moments.
We're going to, of course, award the runner-up first. This might be a painful moment for Liiv SANDBOX fans as they have been so close and yet so far ever since Kartrider Drift League began 2 preseasons ago. Yeah.
Preseason 1, Preseason 2, and the regular season have not been able to defeat their arch rivals, the KWANGDONG FREECS. And I'm so interested in seeing how this rivalry continues to develop over time here in the KDL. But really, for Liiv SANDBOX, even though this is just a second place performance for them, they played exceptionally well. They surprised me with their speed and their item mode skills, especially in phase number 1. And I think that the future is bright for them.
Oh, absolutely. And the past was bright as well. You know, this team has accomplished so much. But one final cheer for our runners-up, Liiv SANDBOX. They will take to the stage and pick up what is still a substantial amount of prize money here in 40 million won. And it's tough because Neil was on this same stage holding another runner-up check just last week, and he'll do it twice again here. He's become a bit of a Kong, as we call it here in Korea, second place finisher here. He's just got a second place curse early on in Kartrider Drift League, but who knows what the future holds.
His teammates patting him on the back. They know how hard it is for him, but I mean, truly, it still is an incredible performance here for Liiv SANDBOX. And although they're sad right now in this moment, I think they can look back on this final still as an accomplishment and come back stronger next time.
Yeah, certainly can. And the dominance we've seen from Liiv SANDBOX over this entire year can still be felt even if they don't lift the trophy. But there is one team left to announce. There's one team left to award.
Is that the case, Wolf? We have one more team?
There's one left.
Yeah, Kwangdong Freaks, the champions from the beginning of this year. KDL preseason 1 and preseason 2, although they won. It didn't go into the record books, but this one absolutely does. And let's welcome to the stage the champions of the KDL regular season 1, the first ever official championship that will go into the history books. Kwangdong Freaks, they take the trophy and that 100 million Korean won prize.
Kwangdong Freaks, preseason 1 champions, preseason 2 champions, but they are your 2023 Kart Rider Drift League Team Match champions. 100 million won, as you say, all the pride, and World keeping his promise that he would win 3 in a row. Sungmin will also receive the MVP award after the votes came through. He's shocked by this information, but he was the one to cross the checkered flag in the end and take out Neil and Byung-soo to win it all. And I think that's why a lot of people voted for him.
This is a team of MVPs. It's a team of all-stars, and the fact they've been able to stick together, this 4-man squad, and deliver victory after victory after victory is just such an incredible storyline. And this really is, I think, a super team, and it's the team to beat. And if Kwangdong Freaks continues to return with the same roster again and again and again, which I see no reason why they wouldn't, it's going to be a tall order for anyone in the world to take them down.
I imagine that during the offseason they will keep this roster together as well. I don't know if we could say the same about a lot of our other top teams here in the Team League, but thank you guys so much for your support throughout preseasons 1 and 2, and now finally the penultimate moment here in 2023. We had Cool crowned the solo champion. Kwangdong Freaks, his team, crowned our first Team League champions. And for myself and State, thank you so much for your support this year, and we'll see you next time.
정규 시즌 잘 마쳤을 나에게 영상 편지.
세영아, 이번 시즌 정말 고생했는데 애들하고 같이 즐기면서 만족했을 거라고 생각해.
만약 성적이 잘 안 나오더라도
좋은 동생들이랑 같이 했으니까 기분 좋게 끝냈으면 좋겠다.
이기는 맛이 이 맛이구나.
최선을 다해서 싸워주는
인터뷰를 한 번이라도 했을지 안 했을지 모르겠지만 여기서라도 이렇게 말하는데 너 멋있으니까 더 좋은 모습으로 오기를 바란다. 예.
팀원들의 사기를 북돋기 위해서 이
팀원들에게 쓴소리도 많이 하겠지만 좋은 성적을 내기 위한 과정이라고 생각을 할 거고 좋은 결과가 나왔으면 좋겠습니다. 얘들아 포스트 시즌 가보자. 파이팅!
데스페라도도 포스트 시즌을 확정 지었습니다.
주영아, 정규 시즌 끝날 때쯤이면 좀 하얘졌을 것 같으니까 까맣다고 하지 마라.
다원아, 반갑다. 고생 많았고 놀러 가자.
이런 말 하는 건 정말 부끄럽지만 다음 시즌도 잘해보자. 고생했다.
2023년을 우리의 해로 광프!
사실 저희랑 광동이랑 차이가 너무 많이 나서 이번 시즌 잘 모를 것 같아요. 어? 너 뭐야? 항복을 선언하는데?
리브 샌드박스에게 3번 실패 없습니다.
저는 이제 광동 프릭스에게 3번의 성공이 있습니다. 이렇게 말하면 될까요?
진짜 나쁜 싸움.
멀어집니다. 아주 여유롭게 멀어지고 있습니다.
새로운 팀에서 1년 동안 달렸는데
7-8 고정이야. 7-8 고정.
정말 박수를 주고 싶어.
부족한 주장이지만 많이 잘 따라줘서 고맙다고 팀원들한테 전하고 싶어요.
광동 그대로 경기 끝.
너 수고 많았고 고생했으니까 좀만 쉬자.
팀원들이랑 사이좋게 지내고 팬들한테 잘해주는 노준현을 봤으면 좋겠다. 우승 축하해 준현아.
Check if my name in your mouth, better add the respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off in my brain and I'm back to the bone.